across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Well, a very good afternoon. This is Talk. Thank you so much for your company. I'm here until 1 o'clock. Lots to discuss, including Rachel Reeves. She's been called the Grinch by the Mail on Sunday. What do you think? Who do you think is the political Grinch of the year? And indeed, this Christmas, she is stealing, the paper says, 45% of your donations, according to some charities. The shocking cost of her national insurance raid to good causes. We're asking not just about Rachel Reeves, but the government in general. Who is the political Grinch of Christmas? We've been asking that question. And your calls are coming in 0344 499 1000. We've been talking to Kevin Hollingreck as well, who is the Shadow Housing Secretary, and we've been hearing from Lucy Powell, the Labour Cabinet Minister. We're now going to, in a second, hear from Elliot Keck, who's head of campaigns at the Taxpayers Alliance, about this. We'll also talk about Elon Musk and Reform UK, and we will be promoting some of the brilliant small businesses that are the backbone of this country a little bit later in the programme, and checking in with a couple of the people who've made the headlines and indeed touched our hearts this year. Teresa in Leicester, you may remember, talked about being cold this winter. Huge response to that. She's not going to be cold this winter anymore. And Mark in Lincolnshire as well, we're going to check in with him. He said he hadn't received a Christmas card in 3 years. Question is, has my Christmas card actually arrived to him? I certainly hope it has. We will find out a little bit later on in the programme. There's loads to discuss. You can help us discuss it. Get your voice on the air. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word Talk in your text. You can tweet me at TalkTV or follow me at Peter Cardwell. Loads to discuss. Stay with us here on Talk. Lots of people getting in touch on text as well and letting us know what you think about the stories today. Steve in Suffolk, my Christmas Grinch is Lord Ali, as he has given me nothing, says Steve. He's the one, of course, who gave all the suits and glasses and so on to Keir Starmer. And Penny in Essex on this story we're actually talking about now. She says, good morning, Peter. Good afternoon as well. Unbelievable, although perhaps not with this bunch, that we are now robbing charities. Disgraceful. People will now stop giving. Charities will suffer. Rachel Reeves is the Grinch. Liz Truss was a financial genius compared to her, says Penny in Essex. He very kindly calls me Peter the Great, which is perhaps not accurate, but nonetheless very kind of her. It's interesting on this issue, and indeed on the economy in general. Lucy Powell, who is the leader of the House of Commons, Labour Cabinet Minister, she's been talking about the economy and the inheritance from the Conservatives. I actually asked Kevin Hollingreck, the Shadow Housing Minister, about that. We did ask to speak to Lucy Powell, but she didn't have time this morning. She has spoken to Sky News, and this is what she said to Sky News.
Obviously, it's disappointing, these figures. You know, of course, we want to see these things happening faster. We want to see more growth in the economy, and we want to see that faster, but really so that it can be felt by ordinary people around the country. But this is a bit like turning around some huge oil tanker, and the underlying problems that the country faces, which are unprecedented and huge, which is why people voted for change, because they could see, quite honestly, going into that election, the country was going down the Swanee. We had living standards falling for the first time in our history going into that general election. We've had public services, particularly health and education, absolutely on their needs, in dire state of investment. And coming into government, we've had to really take some very difficult decisions. The inheritance and the public finances were even worse than we thought. We've had to take some difficult decisions.
If you don't mind.
But we are starting to turn that oil tanker around.
Well, that was Labour's Lucy Powell speaking to Sky News a little bit earlier today. We played that clip, in fact, to Kevin Hollingreck, who is the Shadow Housing Secretary. This is what he had to say about it.
The oil tanker was already turned around. What they've done is sunk the bloody thing. I mean, it's Christ almighty. I mean, our economy is the fastest growing economy in the world's, in the G7, which is the world's biggest economies. And that was the first 6 months of the year. Since when the Labour, all the gloom and doom, if you heard it again there from Lucy Powell, all the gloom and doom, and then massive tax increases and massive public spending, £70 billion of increase in public spending, £40 billion of which are tax increases.
Well, that was Kevin Hollingrick, who is the Shadow Housing Secretary, with some choice words there for Lucy Powell's thoughts on all of that. Well, let's get reaction from Elliot Keck. He's head of campaigns at the Taxpayers Alliance. What do you make of the broad economic picture, first of all, Elliot, and what Kevin Hollingrick and Lucy Powell were saying? Do you have more sympathy with one than the other, Elliot?
Listen, I think the economic picture is pretty dire. I certainly wouldn't particularly promote the economic performance of the United Kingdom over the last few years, where not only has GDP growth been sluggish, but GDP per capita growth, which is arguably a more important measure in terms of living standards, has been sluggish. But there's no doubt things are getting worse. You see inflation going up, business confidence going down, gilt yields going up, and also growth prospects slash. So I think next year is looking like a pretty dire one for the United Kingdom, I'm afraid.
Elliot, I just wonder as well, in regard to this story on the front page of the Mail on Sunday, the Grinch Reeves steals 45% of your donations, say Charities. This is a bit of analysis totting up the national insurance contributions and so on how much charities will have to pay out of the donations we give them. A lot of people giving money to charities, if this story is true, will find themselves very shortchanged.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a good time to be talking about this story. Obviously, at Christmas, charities become far more salient, given the very genuine concern that the public has that there are a lot of people that are not experiencing the Christmases that they deserve and that they need, and all the rest of it. So I think it's absolutely right that we're talking about charities at the moment and talking about the problems that they will face as a result of the national insurance hike. I think it's probably also the one part of the country one part of the economy that the Labour Party will have some sympathy with. Let's be honest, this Labour Party and this Labour government don't care about private sector. They see the private sector as nothing more than a cash cow to milk. So it's a good time to be talking about this story, but we have to remember that it's the whole of the private sector that is going to be suffering as a result of the national insurance rise. Where
do you think, as head of campaigns at the Taxpayers Alliance, the axe should fall? Because we know that there are some exemptions in regard to national insurance. What about GP surgeries, essentially private businesses giving services to the NHS? What about hospices, places like that? Should they have to pay these national insurance rises, or should they be exempted? What do you think?
Listen, my view is if you're going to increase national insurance, it needs to be increased across the board. And obviously my view and the TPA's view would be to not increase national insurance at all. But the problem is if you keep on creating these carve-outs, then you have this problem that you're exempting parts of the economy that, while are very important, they don't actually add to the economic growth and the economic potential. So, the parts of the economy that does drive economic growth, that does drive up living standards, that does pay most of the tax revenue, i.e. the private sector, is the only one that is being expected to pay this tax rise. And I think it's absolutely disgraceful that the public sector has a carve-out from this NI rise. It shows that it's very much one rule for them and another rule for everybody else.
Elliot, thank you very much. That's Elliot Keck there. He's head of campaigns for the Taxpayers Alliance. Well, as we've been doing a little bit this morning, we've spoken to a couple of people. I just want to check in with a few of our callers, not just to the weekend shows, but also my DriveTime shows and other shows throughout the week and so on that I present at various times. Teresa in Leicester really moved me. In fact, there were hundreds of people who emailed us, got in touch, worried about Teresa's welfare when she made this call a couple of months ago. I don't know what it's like in Leicester, but in London it's 0 degrees today, so I'm sure basically, everybody can afford it has the heating on.
No, I can't. I can't afford to put my heating on.
Have you not your heating on today, Teresa?
No, not at all.
Goodness me.
I'm living in one room with a little heater, because even though I'm lucky enough to get it,
yeah,
there's loads of people out there that are not getting it. How are these people going to manage? Do they really want us all dead?
So, Teresa, sorry, can I just clarify? You don't have the heating on at the moment, not even in the room you're in?
No.
It's 1 degree in Leicester at the moment. Is it just because it's so expensive that you're not turning it on today?
No, I won't turn it on. Because even with the fuel allowance, it's not enough to keep you warm all year. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Well, a lot of people were very, very moved by that call from Teresa, including me, it must be said. A lot of people got in touch, A lot of people offered all sorts of things, offered Theresa money and things, and she was very clear that she didn't want money from people. She wanted to raise awareness, and she suggested that they give money to a charity, which I thought was a really selfless move. Theresa, we're respecting your privacy, and we're going to be sure not to give out any details that you don't want to give out, but I'm delighted that you're with me again, and what we do know now is that you will be warm this winter and things have been sorted out for you. Just let us know how things have got better, Theresa.
Oh, hi, Peter.
Hi there.
Yeah,
You sound a lot brighter.
I am. I was feeling, I was angry, and I felt quite deflated by this government at the time. Like I say, I'm lucky enough to get a fuel allowance, but honestly, with your pension and even with the little bit of pension credit that I get, it doesn't heat your house to the degree that you should have it done at this time of year. It just baffles me what this government's trying to do.
And I think a lot of people feel the same way. But Theresa, I know that you're warm today, and that your voice sounds better as well. Have things got a bit better since we were chatting?
They have, yes.
Good.
Definitely.
What sort of a Christmas are you going to have, Theresa?
Oh, I'm going to my daughter's. I was going to say tomorrow. No, on Wednesday.
Lovely. Excellent. And will that be a lovely family occasion? Are there any grandkids or anybody?
Yeah, I've got 6 grandchildren. They're not all hers, I should say, but I have got 6.
Right, okay. Yes, indeed. Well, that's wonderful, Theresa, and it's great to talk to you again. And I'm glad a lot of people, a lot of our viewers and listeners, and I as well, share your view on the fact that, in terms of how this country is governed, it's not great, but at least personally things are better for you. And I wish you a really, really happy Christmas.
Well, and you too. And thank you for highlighting the plight of, there are many, many people out there worse off than me. I'll cope.
Okay. Theresa, thank you. Thank you so much.
A lot of people will end up in hospital if they don't do something about this.
You're right, Theresa, and we're going to keep a very, very close eye on it. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Thank you for joining us again and just giving us a little update. And Theresa, as I say, we're going to respect her privacy and not give out any details that we shouldn't, but we now know that she will be nice and warm this winter. And thanks to everybody who responded to that, and it just shows the compassion and the very best of our viewers and listeners. There were so many people who responded. We got a load of emails as well. Claire behind the scenes, who's our first line of defence with emails to feedback at TalkTV. She did an absolutely brilliant job as well, and we got all sorts of things happen behind the scenes, and it was marvellous, and it showed the best of our viewers and listeners, and actually my colleagues here at Talk as well, and I want to thank them. And they don't get enough recognition, really. I do read out the names at the end of the programme a lot of the times when I have time, but there are a great bunch of people who work on my programmes and support me very, very well indeed. Martin in Wiltshire was in touch on the Sara Sharif case. He says, hypocrisy is the word. These judges are incredible. It appears okay that hiding the identity of judges who made the previous rulings on behalf of the little Sharif girl. However, it is fine to name the police officer who lawfully shot Chris Cabba. Again, no rules for them, but many for us. Best wishes, says Martin in Wiltshire. Penny says, Elon Musk giving Reform UK so much money is great, but to be sure he'll want something from the UK for doing it. But if it was in China, I would be very concerned and worried. So that's a relief. It's not them, says Penny. Well, we're actually going to talk about this next with Gawain Tyler. He's a Westminster veteran. He also worked for Reform UK, and we will talk to him about this and what he thinks. We'll get your opinions too. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us next here on Talk.
Rachel Reeves' big danger now. She has so burdened an already over, the tax burden was at the highest record level at the end of the Tory years. It wasn't low then. She's added to it now, and I think we're in a very dangerous position.
And quite scarily, the other day when Sir Keir Starmer himself was asked, does this mean you're not going to put up taxes again? He said, well, I can't rule it out, which pretty much means, yes, we intend to.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Afternoon, Peter, says Sean in Bicester. The Grinches are the senior cabinet clowns in this awful government, and the Muppets are the deluded people who voted for them when things were just starting to turn around with the Conservatives, says Sean in Bicester. Thank you to Nick. He says, Grinch of the Year, Sadiq Khan. A man who has single-handedly turned our capital city into a no-go zone hellhole where only one community are looked after, and it is not the white British community, in Nick's opinion. Well, lots happening politically, including Elon Musk. Speaking of foreign influence, he is an American, and he is someone who possibly could give Reform UK quite a lot of money. It was interesting, Tim Montgomery, the previously Conservative campaigner, now Reform UK member, said it could be as much as £20 million. Gawain Tyler is a Westminster veteran. He used to work for Reform UK. And Gawain, I wonder how likely you think it is that Elon Musk could give this money, and how much you think he should give.
Honestly, I don't really think it's that likely he's going to give a large sum of money. But money begets money. The talk of money brings money. And so therefore, I think the very idea that was floated in the Times a couple of weeks ago that he was going to give Reform money has already kick-started other fundraising, which is very helpful to Reform. I think to a certain extent, what's more important, if you listen to what Farage said when he came out of that meeting with Musk the other week in Mar-a-Lago, is they talked very deeply about the operation in Pennsylvania. And I think what would be possibly even more useful to Reform is where we are weak is our ground game. People work very, very hard, but without the background data, without the knowledge of where people voted over the last 20 years, we've only been going for 3 years, 20+%, 22% I think average now. We've only been going for 3 years to get that data and use the algorithms that Musk was using in those campaign key states in America. That, in fact, knowing how to use that kit, getting hold of that kit as a donation in kind, that actually may be more important than pure cash.
And that's a really interesting point. Pennsylvania, of course, a swing state. Joe Biden himself had a lot of family links there. He grew up in Scranton. Kamala Harris, of course, had no links there in Pennsylvania for lots of reasons, not just those, but actually many more to do with immigration, to do with the price of groceries, to do with lots of different things, inflation, and so on, went to the Republicans. So specifically with Pennsylvania, just to illustrate that point maybe a little bit more for our viewers and listeners who might not be sort of totally familiar with the ground game, the point of the on what Musk and his people could perhaps teach Reform UK.
The point is being able to target voters, to learn who they are, where they live, what are they interested in, what are the key messages and key details that make them wake in the morning, make them happy, make them annoyed. And being able to understand who the people are who may vote for Reform, if we can reach them. That's what that data can provide. The other parties have spent years building up databases. We just haven't. And for us to compete properly on the ground game, that would be the most vital thing that we could possibly do. We're brilliant at the air war, as you're well aware. What we're really good is doing the media stuff. But what we're not so good, despite the hard work of our volunteers, is knowing where people live. And being able to reach
and that is absolutely essential. Yeah, I wonder,
in the modern political game, yes, 100%.
Just speaking of the American side of things, we know that Lord Mandelson, the new ambassador to the United States, he'll take up his post next year. Well, he has been called, and I quote, an absolute moron by the co-chairman of Donald Trump's re-election campaign. And we have Kim Darroch, who's the former ambassador, today saying, look, this is just what it's going to be like. This is going to be what Trump 2.0 is like. He says this is what life is like going to be like under Trump 2.0, like a 24/7 barroom brawl. You get this sort of stuff, Lord Darroch says, going on all the time. You need to have a thick skin. You need to manage it and to get through it, to weather it, as it were. So Lord Mandelson is a very experienced politician. I'm sure he can cope with this kind of stuff. What do you think about Lord Mandelson as a choice? How do you think, given your knowledge of the Trump people, and how they're going to react to him?
To be honest, Kim Darroch, when he was the ambassador over there, he was a disaster. He almost actively campaigned against Trump when he was in that role. So therefore, that was an absolute disaster at the beginning of Trump's last term. I think Mandelson has the thick skin that Darroch mentions. He has the ability to mix it up, and he's also personally very charming. He didn't get called the Prince of Darkness because he was bad at his job. He got called it because he was very good at his job. And it is notable that since Trump's election, one of the very few people who's actually recognized the value of Farage's relationship with Trump is Mandelson. He has raised it. Look, there isn't a left or even centrist politician in Britain who hasn't slagged off Trump over the last 10 years. You'd be lucky to find anybody who hasn't tweeted something disobliging. But with Mandelson, you've got somebody who has a skill set. He is able to mix it. He has huge international experience, and he is not he's not unaware that there are other routes into the White House and the Trump team and the broader Trump cabinet. So I think that is something that is going to be very relevant. I mean, honestly, if you look around the Labour world, the milieu in which Keir Starmer lives, can you think of anybody more suitable? I can't.
It's a very good point, actually. Nigel Farage himself suggested at one point, before he became an MP, that he could be the ambassador. And I wonder if you could sort of give us your thoughts, your experience, obviously, of Nigel Farage in terms of what his role may well be in a Trump administration, even, obviously unofficially, but as some sort of conduit. Clearly, Keir Starmer has made it clear that he doesn't want to go through unofficial channels. He wants to go through official channels. But I think we're going to be in a really, really interesting situation, and Gawain, you may disagree with this, where Nigel Farage is sometimes going to know things before the government do because of his links to the Trump administration.
I think that's certainly the case. He will. It just will. Over the last, since 2016, Nigel's been a friend of Trump. And over that period of time, he hasn't just got to know Trump himself, but he's got to know many people in Trump's coming cabinet. There is nobody better placed in the UK to get messages across or receive messages. And though Mandelson no doubt will do a best job he can, I think Nigel's a far better place. And I don't know if you saw a couple of weeks ago after PMQs, Starmer crossed the floor and went up to talk to Farage.
I did see that, yes. A number of people were asking me, what did they talk about? To which I said, I wasn't there, I don't know. Maybe you know.
Not precisely. But I think the suggestions are it was about the US. But it shows actually a little bit of flexibility on Starmer that we're not used to. There's no way that any of the Tory leaders post-16 would have ever done something like that. They saw Farage as an anathema. Starmer realised with a bit of statesmanship that he may be an anathema politically at home, but if you want to get on with the states, just maybe with the incoming president, being polite and civil to Farage isn't such a bad idea.
Yeah, and I think sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that I think is a key point. And as I say, Mandelson's already flagged this up. Farage obviously speaks. I know there's no doubt, and we're aware, the Chagos Islands issue is something that is very high on Nigel's agenda. It's also very high on the State Department's agenda and Trump's agenda. We see an attempt to rush it through before Trump sits in the Oval Office, but I think that would be a very foolish move on part of the government. particularly with suspicions of getting a little bit too close to China. So little things like that, the ability to have a back channel, even if it's only a very subtle one, cannot be a bad thing. It's called realpolitik and it's called statesmanship. And we, as a country, desperately need a little bit of that because we seem to have been run on dreams and idiocies for far too long.
Gawain, you may find yourself in a slightly strange position of actually agreeing with Diane Abbott. She has told, the Labour MP has told Times Radio, our colleagues over there, that she doubts Peter Mandelson will be effective as the US ambassador. So I wonder whether that is something you agree with. Speaking to Ed Vasey about whether Peter Mandelson is a good choice as the UK ambassador to Washington, she said, "We've seen in terms of the appointments into general election a lot of what you might call Blairite retread. This is what it is, and Mandelson is more of the same. I'm not so sure Mandelson will be as effective as the US ambassador. I don't know if you've seen, there have been stories in the press over the weekend that some friend or supporter of Trump has been quite rude about Peter Mandelson. And as is someone very close to Trump, you realise how well Mandelson will come across when he finally turns up as ambassador. But perhaps you think he'll do a better job, and maybe Diane Abbott's wrong. I don't know. What do you think?"
I actually think he will do a better job. I knew him when he was over in Brussels as commissioner, and his ability to speak on behalf of the UK, even though he was taking a position that was an anathema to mine, was very clear. And I go back to the point: David Lammy or Peter Mandelson? Who would you choose? I mean, seriously.
Who
would you choose from the Labour world who could do a better job? I can't think of anybody.
I'm not sure I would
really
trust. I'm not sure I would trust. I'm not sure I would trust David Lammy to run a Welk stall, to be perfectly frank.
We have to deal with the situation we have got, rather than a dream world where you have somebody like Lord Palmerston reawaking from the dead and doing a job like that. So it's not going to happen. So as we have what we've got, we have the personnel we have, and it is. You've got to remember Rishi brought back, or not Rishi, but when Haig was brought back from the dead to do foreign ministry duties.
And then David Cameron.
Yeah. So this sort of international relations job often requires somebody with a deep well of experience. And you've got to remember, these days, you don't send an ambassador to Washington and not hear from them for 6 weeks because the White Star Line hasn't sent a boat across. You've got things like telephones and emails. So then he's not operating as a sort of plenipotentiary fiefdom. He doesn't have a complete carte blanche. He will be operating within the rules and regulations and within the direction of Number 10 and the Foreign Office. So yes, he's there. Yes, he's good at the charming stuff. Yes, he's good at the dinner parties and the cocktail parties and that diplomatic world. But the actual hard politics will still be run by London, and will be run by London on a minute-by-minute basis.
Gawain, what do you think of Reform's chances in the various elections coming up in the next little while? We've got the council elections in England, we've got Welsh Senate elections, so I still call it the Welsh Assembly, and the Scottish Parliament elections, all within the next couple of years. And I mean, Labour is under a lot of pressure. There's absolutely no doubt about that. We've had some by-elections as well, where both the Conservatives and Reform have done quite well. Starmer's personal approval rating at minus 61%. Do you think it's there for the taking?
There for the taking would be a little bit arrogant, I suspect. The next year's council elections, we don't know what's going to happen because of these suggestions that some of them are going to get pushed back. Labour's been very clever. They want that to happen, but have put it into the hands of Tory council leaders to make those decisions. We've put an awful lot of work and effort into selecting candidates in those councils that are going to be fought next year. I think there's every reason we'll do well and pick up a good number of councillors and start to push through into the English counties. But I think looking at Wales, there is no good reason to think that we wouldn't be challenging to win that election, to be the largest party in the Welsh Assembly.
You think that can happen? You think they can be the largest party? Do you think they'd be the government of Wales?
I have no doubt that that's entirely possible. I have no doubt. I mean, look, it's politics. Everybody can blow up and make a pig's ear of life. But if we don't make any major errors, and if we keep on working, I've seen the quality of some of the people who are bubbling out of the extra 70,000 members that we've picked up in the last 6 months. There's some really, really good people. We're getting excellent advice. There's good leadership on the ground in Wales, and in Scotland, again, you've got to think, in the Holyrood collective of Tories, every single one of them was a Tom Tugendhat supporter. There is, and Labour and the SNP are also looking at reform in Scotland as a party that can pick up 5-10 seats in Holyrood. No, we are becoming a real voice for people who've been disenfranchised and a real threat to the legacy parties.
Okay, Gawain Tyler, thank you very much indeed. He is a Westminster veteran and former worker and indeed senior figure in Reform UK as well. Mark and Selby, thank you for your message on text. He says, Merry Christmas to you and your cat. Thank you, Mark, it's very kind. Labour do not like it up them when it comes to donations from incredibly wealthy people. Keir takes gifts from Lord Ali and party donations from the unions to advance himself and his party. But when Elon Musk wishes to donate to Reform, suddenly that is unacceptable. We can see through Labour, who are as deep as a car park puddle. And as for Mandelson being our man in America, are you aware how much has been splashed on refurbishing the ambassador's home in Washington? It is obscene. Another bad appointment by Keir. Can't he get at least one thing right? Seemingly not. Leslie says, I love Gawain, he speaks sense. And on charities as well, Penny in Essex says, hi Peter the Great. She keeps calling me that. Very nice of you, Penny. Regarding charities and the government taking money from charities, will charities like the air ambulance and the lifeboats lose money to this awful government when people leave them money in wills like we're doing? Can you find out, Peter? I don't know is the answer. I know that certain levels of inheritance tax are not, it depends on the level of inheritance tax. If it's under, I think, £325,000, well then it's not subject to taxation. What is worth doing, Penny, if you are leaving money to those different organisations, is not saying a percentage of your estate, but a specific amount of money. So in my will, I've left money to 2 charities, and I've specifically said how much I want that money to be. So even if the quantum, when I pop my clogs, is not that much, that amount will be given to those charities, and the rest will go to Jack, of course. No, it won't. I haven't left everything to my cat, but maybe I have. I'll just leave that hanging in the wind there. Cliff in Berkshire says, Merry Christmas to you and yours. Thank you, Cliff, and to you as well. A lot of money is being made from charities, including the gangster state. We had a lot of charity door knockers trying to get us to set up a direct debit in favour of various well-known charities. It turns out that a lot of these door knockers receive the first year of donations as commission, and the charity only gets the donation each month once the commission period comes to an end. I also feel some charity CEOs are overpaid with their 6-figure salaries. Cliff, I go backwards and forwards in this, honestly. Certainly the CEOs, you want really good people running charities, but the whole idea of professional fundraisers and you pay people a lot of money and they bring in a lot of money, is that worth it? I think it probably is, but I also don't know. Sometimes I always have a little bit of doubt about that. The chuggers, what they call the charity muggers, people who go door to door or in the street as well. Have you got a minute to talk? Tell us about this charity and so on. Oh, it's also marvellous and wonderful. Look, they need to make a living. I get that, but also I have a lot more respect for the people who are volunteers and holding the the tins for money to go into. But listen, like everything else, it changes. These things change and there are developments, and they see the ways in which they can raise money. But personally, I don't stop for chuggers. I say, no thank you, or I'm busy, or I'm on my way. I'm polite to them. They've got a job to do. I'm polite to them, but I will not stop for them, and I'll not give them my direct debit things. In fact, I moved. There was one charity I did support, and I moved from that charity to another charity. And my first question when I rang up the second charity that I have continued to donate to, actually, not that I'm Mother Teresa, I don't give as much as I should, but I give a little bit. My first question was, do you use chuggers? Do you use these people in the street? And they said, no, we don't. And I said, thank you very much. You will now be the recipient of my donation. And I challenged, actually, the head of a big homelessness charity. When I was in government, I challenged the head of a big homelessness charity about this and said, look, I don't think this is the right way. And he said, look, they bring in the money. So listen, that's a debate perhaps we can have on another occasion. We're going to debate more. We're going to talk to Anne in Sussex on the other side of the break about Sara Sharif. We're also going to check in with Mark in Lincolnshire as well. Did my Christmas card arrive? We will find out in just a minute here on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile. The home of common sense. This is Talk.
Anne is in Sussex and has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Anne, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say? I think it's the Sara Sharif case and social workers that you've perhaps given me a ring about.
Well, yes, and that's linked to local authorities. Of course, like the whole of the country, that is shocking. Another child loses her life, and all the warning signs were there.
Yeah.
As soon as she wasn't absent from school. But I think the warning signs were there when her mother was pregnant and he was violent. I think, one, I have concerns about the way social workers are trained. And I've always said, and I've been involved in many cases where children have been taken into care and the children have been given to the violent fathers, would you believe, as well. I mean, things go wrong on all sides. You know, when there is a concern, there should be two social workers who go into a family where they can't seem to get the right response, because one would pick up signs that the other doesn't, and there's a strength in saying, I need to see that child now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would not just send one. And, of course, I think I've said before, many social workers who are senior and well-trained go into management.
You're right.
The young ones who haven't had
it's resourcing as well, Anne, isn't it? It's making sure that the right people are there with the right training, but also we keep being told with these inquiries and so on, you know, lessons will be learned, this will never happen again, and then it does.
Oh, look, I grew up in Brighton where Maria Colwell was killed, and I went to the authorities to say what I was going through, and they sent me back with a letter. So maybe that's why I've always fought so hard for families, because I know that they all need help, and lack of knowledge is as bad as lack of money.
Yes,
and the other thing you see is, I've been sitting at meetings where an enormous amount of money is being paid recruiting social workers. It isn't just social workers that we need. It's family therapists. We need the health visitors or the child health visitors that visit the family. I think in Belfast, Peter, you would know the wonderful system where they used to visit for the first year every month.
Yeah.
And they would help the parent to parent, because a lot of parents never go near a baby until they have one, and that was very good. But my concern is that we are coming to another situation with the local authorities where council tax will be increased. The ineptness of many local authorities, you know, it makes me say, come on, why are you paying all those top staff all that money when actually the services in the front line are so poor?
Yes.
That we need to look at actually what is being delivered. And where are our biggest pensions? It's local government workers or health workers and councils. And that is costing sort of fortune. But so would the increase in the insurance that they've increased for every employer.
Well, you the national insurance, you make a lot of really, really good points there, Anne, and you've called this programme a number of times over the course of the year, and you always make good points, Anne. And I just want to say thank you for those calls. Have you got a nice Christmas lined up yourself, Anne?
Oh yes, I have. From a child in care with nobody, I have a large family.
Lovely.
And that was good, but I was also as happy working with the homeless on Christmas Day. I'd never be bored. Wonderful stuff, Anne. You're a great person. Thank you very much indeed. That's Anne in Sussex, who one of our regular callers who gives us some really, really good thoughts throughout the year, and I know many other people do as well. So thank you to everybody. I will be back, I should say, on the 30th. I'm going to be here. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere for the next 17 minutes, but I will be back on the 30th, Monday the 30th. I'll be doing Drive all week, the week after Christmas. But yes, I'm heading off to Northern Ireland, and I'm delighted that, we think about Christmas's past, we think of Christmas's present, we think of Christmas's future, and really the ghost of Christmas past is with us today. Tech Up Dave is in the studio wearing a hideous Santa shirt. Hello, sir. Are you? And a hat. Tell us about the hat.
You can't be rude about the shirt. The shirt was bought by my daughter.
Well, you always make that excuse, but I think... The hat's
great as well. What's this?
So the hat actually, that's amazing. I'm going to put my own hat on. So you've got the wiggly ears. That's brilliant. Well, listen, I'm going to put my own Christmas hat on as we
that looks lovely.
Discuss some Christmas stories, because tell us about the man who built a 30-foot yacht in his back garden for Christmas. I actually don't even know if it's a man. I'm just assuming it's a man.
It is a man.
Who built a 30-foot yacht.
A guy called Ian, who was 82 years old and was a sailor and loved doing bits and pieces. And he even had a little model boat that he sailed in the garden.
Right.
And unfortunately, he got a cancer diagnosis, and so rather than get down in the dumps, build a boat. He's always liked model boats.
He spent the last 12 months handcrafting a 30-foot yacht in his Bearston back... Is that how you remember it? Bearston?
I think so,
Bearston back garden, with the hope it will bring joy and make people happy over the festive period. The boat and its 33-foot mast are decorated with hundreds of Christmas lights, which can be seen by those passing by. Well, he's
probably lots of people in the near local area,
presumably from space as well. Yes, my goodness.
So that's quite good.
But actually, there is a bit of pressure on parents for an Instagram-worthy Christmas as well, making sure that all the you're seen to be having a good time, and that is the pressure a lot of people have, isn't it?
Gone are the days of sitting there circling things in the catalogue, going, I want that,
yes.
Which is what I did when I was a kid.
Now you get the Argos catalogue, the laminated book of dreams.
Now you get an email from your child with a load of hyperlinks in it, which they've found on TikTok of things that
which you then forward to Santa Claus,
which then have to be forwarded to Santa Claus
and the elves. Yes.
But even worse for that, some of the boys this year have been asking for advent calendars that were 25 quid.
25 quid for an advent calendar?
Yes.
That's more than £2 a month.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. I remember having an advent calendar where you open the door and the most exciting thing was a picture.
Yeah.
They didn't put chocolate in advent calendars when I was young.
When I were a lad, you had to walk 3 miles to school in the snow. You had a friend who had a piece of rope to play with. He was middle class. Right. Speaking of Christmas presents.
Christmas presents. Well, we've got you a little present, which we know you're a fan of cats.
Yes. Am I a fan of this, though?
I'm not really sure whether you're going to... It's allegedly a Christmas tree decoration.
Would it be fair to say this is in some ways a novelty present?
It could well be.
I don't want to insult you in any way, but it's kind of scary. It's a ceramic cat.
Yes. So, happy Christmas.
Than't you very much, I think. I've put this on...
Jack will love it.
I put this on Twitter for a picture of Dave with this. I would argue, a slightly sinister-looking cat there with a wreath. I'm not sure quite what it's looking at, but I mean, all I can say is thank you, I think.
Excellent. Yes.
Goodness me. Well, yes, that's
Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas to you too, Dave. I have given Dave presents, but they were yesterday and off screen because I don't feel the need to ostentatiously show my generosity. Tell us about the cat. The cat who got stuck up a drain pipe. We couldn't have a chat with you, Dave, without talking about cats, of course.
A female black cat called John.
John the female cat, yeah.
Was found with its head poking through one end of a pipe that was connected to a garage down in North Somerset.
Right.
And so firefighters had to be called
to
remove John from the pipe. And in the end, what they had to do was chop the pipe off, leaving Johnny in the little bit of the
pipe itself. Yeah.
And then off to the vet he went, and it's okay, everything's fine.
Vets for Pets Clevedon said in a statement shared by the fire station that John, the female cat, was cuddled and pampered before being reunited with her relieved owner. I was given oxygen therapy and sedated while the pipe was removed by the fire brigade. My goodness.
There we go.
Well done. I'm going to take this opportunity to say thank you, Tech Up Dave, and thank you to everybody who works on the programme as well. I'm also going to self-indulgently, as I try not to, but I am going to read out 3 nice messages. Shall I read them out?
Oh, go on then.
Simon in Portsmouth says, in the studio bright with holiday cheer, Peter Cardwell's on air, spreading joy far and near. Talk's the place where the magic unfolds with stories and laughter and warm tales retold. Enjoy going home, says Simon in Portsmouth. Isn't that lovely? And thank you to Alice in Belfast, which is very close to where my parents live, about 30 miles away. Hi Peter, I hope you and your family have a great Christmas. Going to miss you. And Kevin and Mike, just have to have a few extra drinks over Christmas, given that you'll be away. You never seem to get good weather when you're going home. Hope you don't have delays. Great show. I'm sure Jack got loads of prezzies. Santa broke the bank for my wee Garfield, says Alice. Well, I hope Garfield had a wonderful Christmas. And Penny has been in touch again. Says, you are Peter the Great. What a brilliant presenter you are. Thank you for your empathy, kindness and genuine caring for us, your listeners for such a long time, and the many topics you have talked about. Please don't ever leave. Wishing you and yours a very Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year. Keep safe. Love, Penny in Essex. Penny, thank you. That's very touching. And a very happy Christmas and New Year to you, Dave. You've got a new hat on now, which is a reindeer.
Yes.
You really have quite an extensive collection of these.
I've got a huge bag, which I always get requested by Mr. Bull to bring in.
Excellent. Well, he is back tomorrow at 6 o'clock with the breakfast show. Dave, happy Christmas. We're going to talk to, as we have been doing over the last little while, a couple of small businesses to remind ourselves, just as Christmas comes near, it's not just about the big online retailers, it's about supporting local businesses. On Small Business Saturday a couple of weeks ago, we had a huge reaction. 2 more businesses, the last 2 of the year, and we'll hear from them, and we will check in with Mark in Lincolnshire to see if my Christmas card arrived. Stay with us here on Talk.
If you watch the abysmal proceedings by the Public Accounts Committee yesterday, you saw all these people who've wasted not the figure you did, but nearer 100 billion, stand there having lied to successive Public Accounts Committees over the years and saying, oh, we're going to reset it, and from now on, we who have messed it up are going to make it all right again. I mean, I've never seen anything more ridiculous in my life.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Well, you might remember a few weeks ago it was Small Business Saturday. We had loads of people saying they wanted to hear more from small businesses, loads of small businesses who got in touch, over 20 of them actually, and we've decided today's the last day, but we're just going to profile a couple of them, really encouraging people to get out there, support businesses in your community, and to make sure that you shop locally, especially these last few days. You know, it's probably too late for a lot of the online retailers as well anyway, so get out there on your high street and support people. So we'll talk first to Sanjay Agarwal, who's Chief Spice Officer at the Spice Kitchen. Sanjay, tell us a little bit about Spice Kitchen.
Brilliant. No, thank you for having me. So, yeah, as I said, my name's Sanjay Agarwal. I'm actually the co-founder of Spice Kitchen. We're a company based in Liverpool. We make amazing spice blends, but we actually make these wonderful gifts of spices. You can see that, and it's an Indian spice box with all the spices in. And my amazing mum, who I founded the business for, actually makes these gift wraps.
Oh, lovely. Your mum makes those. I'll just say to people who are listening on the radio that is a very intricate and very beautiful spice box there. So your mother makes those and you market them and sell them.
Exactly, yeah. So we make the amazing blends and we put together these beautiful sets of spices essentially with gift wraps, as well as selling spiced hot chocolates and spiced chocolate bars and a variety of amazing products.
Marvellous. Well, Sanjay, all the very best. I hope it has a really good Christmas for you, and thanks for contacting us as well as Sanjay Agarwal, who's Chief Spice Officer at Spice Kitchen. One more, and that is Nicole Bateman, who's co-founder of the Super Sensory Squad. This is a bit different. Tell us a little about the Super Sensory Squad and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So we go from cats to penguins. So we've got 8 penguin characters that link to the 8 sensory systems to help especially neurodivergent kids understand their sensory needs so that they can feel more emotionally regulated and better for their mental health. So yeah, we have books, we have toys, and we have courses to help parents understand too.
Marvellous. That is a really good idea. Now, how long have you had the business and whereabouts do you work, Nicole?
So it's myself and my business partner, Kate Grayson, who's an occupational therapist, and we've run it for 18 months now. I'm down in Bournemouth and she's down up in Newcastle. So we work online and, we met through Mums in Business networking.
Wonderful. Well, very well done to you, and very Merry Christmas, and thanks for profiling your business. That's Nicole Bateman there. She's the co-founder of the Super Sensory Squad. We also heard from Sanjay Agarwal, Chief Spice Officer at Spice Kitchen. As the final thing that I do before Christmas, I want to talk to Mark in Lincolnshire, and I just want to remind ourselves of what Mark told me last week. Let's just remind ourselves of that.
I mean, it's I think my 7th year on my own now. I've been housebound for about 2 years, aged 50, okay. which has been great fun anyway. So it's not like I can get out to do anything else anyway, even if I wanted to. I mean, I don't really mind too much. I can understand why a lot of people get really upset this time of year. Yeah. Whether it's more the religious side of it that gets me through that, I don't know. I assume it probably is. I mean, for me, I think if there's anything that does kind of get to me a little bit, it's more the fact, like I said I can never think of his name, the guy that answered the phone originally.
Tommy.
Tommy. It's more the side of things where you have, like again, for, I don't know now, 2, 3, 4 years now, there's no Christmas cards, there's no presents, there's none of that.
Do you not get any Christmas cards, Mark?
No, not had a Christmas card for about 3 years.
Well, I decided to send Mark a Christmas card, and a few other people as well. Mark, you're very welcome back to the programme. Has my Christmas card arrived? Has it actually got through the maelstrom of the postal system?
Hi there, Peter.
Hiya.
Hi there. No, it hasn't.
Well, you were telling me on DMs last night on Twitter that you've got a note from the Royal Mail saying a package has arrived, so hopefully you'll get that soon.
Hopefully it does turn up, yeah. I mean, it's only a couple of days, isn't there, really? So
yeah, it'll hopefully arrive tomorrow anyway, Mark. But listen, we've had quite a reaction to your call, and you really didn't sound... You weren't feeling sorry for yourself at all, Mark. You certainly were just being very factual and giving great insight, as you often do when you give us a call. I wonder just how important you believe the religious side of Christmas is this year, especially for people like yourself who will be on their own on Wednesday.
I think it's, as I said last week, it's quite important for me. It's not that I'm some kind of, the classic Bible basher, that kind of guy. I'm not really that. But religion does play a part for me because I always feel, since I reconnected with the Lord, if you like, he always feels with me. I never feel truly alone. Whenever I do get little bits of, darkness or whatever in me where I feel a bit down in the dumps and things about the situation, I think it's always that brightens me up. And it's just remembering, for me, the sacrifices that he made, that he came here to essentially save us. He admonishes us of our sins by taking our sins. And, the whole, as everybody knows, that's why he died on the cross.
Yeah. And you've reminded us, Mark, of the true meaning of Christmas and the reason. Jesus is the reason for the season. Many Christians say, I'm agnostic, hopeless agnostic, but this is the point. This is why we have Christmas. Mark, I just want to wish you, I hope that package arrives tomorrow. I know you've got a little note about it. And I just want to wish you a very, very happy Christmas and keep in touch in 2025.
Indeed, you too, Peter. Have a nice Christmas back in Northern Ireland, and best of love to Jack as well.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate that, Mark. That's Mark in Lincolnshire there, and I'd like to thank the top team behind the glass. Chris Jacobs has been the producer, Tommy Bateson the assistant producer, Dave Rhodes the technical operator, Tech Up Dave and purveyor of terrible gifts, Titus D'Souza and Faith Eden have been the visual producers, and Amin Asadi has been the video editor. I will be back, believe it or not, in half an hour if you're watching on the telly with Clash of the Titans. That was a show I did with Kevin and Julia and indeed Russell Quirk. But yes, if you're watching on the telly, there's a lot coming up. And coming up on Talk Sport on the radio, Sam Matterface is going to bring you the Sunday session, live updates of 5 matches across the Premier League, including Tottenham versus Liverpool. And you're going to hear the Sunday warm-up next. And remember, the darts is live on Talk Sport too throughout the afternoon. A very happy Christmas to you. I am back on Monday the 30th. I will see you then.
50 games of football.
I'm in a really bad way, and it's Christmas.
Oh, I've eaten too much turkey. I think I've got indigestion.
How many people have either injured themselves or died on stairs in EastEnders in the Christmas special?
I've met three people who seem to love sprouts.
Yes.
The majority of people, to my knowledge, don't like them. But we're
That's
forced.
rubbish. That's fake news.
I'm joined by 3 ex-elves of Santa. Kev, James and Greg are here to share their Christmas grumps with you, as it is a time of giving. And we'll kick off, of course, with Kev.
Christmas TV specials. And if only they could axe all Christmas TV specials, the world would be a happier and better place. We'd have a happier Christmas.
Well, hang on, you're a TV critic.
Well, it's been a while, but...
But you are qualified to say these things. Will the execs take notice of you?
No, they never did.
They never did, and they never will. They were probably very wise.
Okay. But the one that they're all talking about, and people are saying, actually, this is the Christmas special that they want to watch, is Gavin and Stacey. Is that something that you think will be either a monumental and colossal fail, or will it be the one that bucks the trend?
Oh, well, hold on. Maybe it'll be this.
I think she'd had about 7 bottles of Dom Perignon before she got on with those kids.
I mean, I'm with you, Kev. I am not a fan of the Christmas special. I mean, like the Casualty Christmas special, where people just get injured wearing tinsel.
Yeah.
I mean, what's that about?
I'm in a really bad way, and it's Christmas.
Oh, I've eaten too much turkey. I think I've got indigestion. No, you're having a...
Also, even the soaps. I mean, when you have all these things, how many people have either injured themselves or died on stairs in EastEnders in the Christmas special?
Let's have a look at this, shall we?
Christmas doesn't have to cost a fortune, because behind Curry's Discount Plus, you'll find great money-saving gift ideas. Like this Jones clock radio for only $18.95. The Philips Lady Shave for just $11.99. Or this Pi Music Center for only $199.90. And they're all backed by Curry's Price Promise. So come and make more of a Merry Christmas for less at Curry's.
Britain's electrical specialists.
Oh my
God. I mean, who was that young, sprightly man?
You look a bit like him.
Do I?
If you had a shave, you'd look a bit like him.
Yeah.
My guess is he had kids who were costing him a hell of a lot of money. So probably in desperation, he made that.
My guess is that you had a very good Christmas that year.
Yeah. I can't quite recall 1979.
Given all of those rubbish.
freebies from Curry's.
Yeah. Did that year?
Dad, what do I need?
You got a clock radio and a music centre.
Why do I need a lady shave?
I don't want this Philips Music Centre.
Well, he'd be looking at the lady shave now and he'd be going, well, anything to get rid of that.
You need a lady shave now, you scruffy bugger.
Don't be like that. My mother, God rest her soul, never liked my beard either. But moving on, we have James, who would like to talk to us about one of his favourite events, which is the office Christmas party.
They're absolutely not my favourite events. I can't bear them.
Really? You surprised me.
It's double force partying. So I think there's an issue, particularly when it comes to whether it's
You
Christmas
going
or
tonight?
New Year. No, I'm absolutely not. I've got far better things to do. And the question is whether or not I'm, partly involved. But the problem with the office Christmas party is the way people behave.
I heard you weren't invited, James.
I thought I wasn't, and then I was strictly told that I had received the email. I just ignored it.
Well, I never got it.
Exactly. Here's the point. Office Christmas parties, it's not just about the party itself and how badly people behave. It's the way in. So if you happen to meet a gaggle of people going to an office Christmas party and you're on the tube or something and they're all doing preloading and they behave abominably, afterwards they've all been to the party and they think that pavement pizza is what everybody else wants to step in on their way home. Absolutely not. I'm sorry. People's behaviour is disgusting.
Because one of the upsides, maybe for many, was that, your unrequited desire of someone in the office could be brought to the fore because of the mistletoe hanging, but they've banned mistletoe now.
Well, it's not surprising because, frankly, in-house operatives should never be allowed. You should never go there. So never go anywhere near any of your colleagues. Leave them all alone. Step away. Otherwise, you'll be ending up doing a Greg. That's not good. But
hang on. Well, Greg, not me.
No, not you.
No, a Wallace, I think he's...
Right.
With the
Greg
triple G.
Wallace.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
So I think it's about... It's at the whole behaviour.
Something doorstep and...
Yes, exactly. So it's the behaviour going in, it's the behaviour out. And the other thing is that most Christmas parties, because of firms who want to save money, rarely is the drink they serve what you would serve at home. Yeah. Rarely is the food of a quality that you would do anything other than shove in the bin. And rarely is the quality of conversation any good at all. And it's just a hideous...
I don't want to play devil's avocado here.
Well, then don't.
All right. Fine. We'll move on. We'll move. Talking of vegetables, or maybe it's a fruit, the avocado. Yeah. Greg, what have you got against sprouts? I like a sprout.
I'm actually going to defend sprouts.
How are you?
Because
it says here everyone's secretly...
Hold on. It says quite clearly...
I reject that.
It's your first time on, Greg. If you could stick to the script, that'd be great. It says sprouts, which everyone secretly hates.
Yeah, Mark and I are agreeing we don't hate sprouts.
And I don't hate sprouts.
I like
so hold on a second.
This is falling apart of the
hold on. Have we discovered actually that grumpy people actually like sprouts?
Yeah. Yes. That might be what makes you grumpy.
Do you not like sprouts?
Well, here's the thing. I am defending sprouts in a way. Because no one eats sprouts outside of the festive season.
I do.
No.
I do.
Yes. I like them.
As soon as they're in season, I'm eating them.
I'll tell you what, I think what you're complaining about, and maybe this is me putting words in your mouth, it's how people cook sprouts at Christmas. Now, they overcook them, they cook them badly, they don't know what they're doing, they didn't listen to Nigella, they make a terrible mess of it, and they're always horrible and mushy. Now,
how do you cook yours?
I blanch them, chop them, shallow fry in butter with a little bit of Courvoisier over the top, and some chestnuts and some sautéed
a little bit of
shallots.
Fanny Craddock, hold it down for a minute. What do you hate about Christmas
dinner? I've met 3
dinner?
people who seem to love sprouts.
Yes.
The majority of people, to my knowledge, don't like them. But we're forced...
That's rubbish. That's fake news.
Yeah, fake news.
Fake news.
Something we've proven.
Yeah, but you can't extrapolate
you just
your
need to
views
be
across the whole
over
nation.
50 and slightly curmudgeonly to have come round to sprouts.
Yeah, but I mean, but what happens is, so my mum, God rest her soul, she used to put a cross in the bottom like that for no apparent reason. Yeah. And apparently chefs say all that does is allow much more water to seep in. Yeah. And then she would boil them for something like 4 to 6 weeks.
Yes.
And they would be like mush. But
they do stink the house out
but
as well.
if you don't boil them for ages and you cook them freshly and interestingly, they're really good.
But there's another great thing about sprouts.
Roasting them is a good thing.
Yes, roasting. There's another great thing about sprouts.
Hold on, we've turned into the Sprout fan club here.
As an old and grumpy person,
yes,
they do make you guff, and there's nothing better than an old person sitting in the corner after Christmas having a little guff.
There's quite a lot better than that, actually.
For breakfast.
Look, talking of old people sitting in the corner of your house, one of my grumps is, why is it at Christmas you garner unnecessary relatives? You don't see them all year, and the one time of the year when you want people around you that you really like, they decide that they're going to turn up to your house then.
Well, do they decide that they want to turn up?
Why are you coming
or do you
to my
feel
house?
obliged to invite them because you feel a bit sorry for them, even though you're not a fan?
I don't invite anybody to my house at Christmas,
really?
but they come.
But still they come.
Yeah, but still they come.
I mean, Kevin's the sort of person who would turn up at your house.
Well, I wouldn't mind if Kev.
No.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind if Kev turned up at my house. I'd be perfectly happy if Kev turned up at my house. But that's aunt,
sorted.
That aunt or spurious in-law, who turns up at your house, isn't there to have a good time, isn't someone that you would choose to spend any time with. Why are you expected to spend time with them on Christmas Day?
Can I ask
or
you a question,
even worse, drive around the M25 to their house to go and see them?
May I ask you a question, though?
Yes.
Because it's not so much the relative who turns up who you wonder where the heck they've been for the rest of the year. It's actually when they turn up at your house and then they start interfering. And then they start moving your cushions around, getting involved in the dishwasher, reorganising your fridge. No, thank you, keep out.
I'm very clear, right, because I do the cooking, right? And I'm very clear that I wish to be left alone. And there is a very good reason why I do the cooking.
Tell us.
So I don't have to talk to anybody. So when said
he was a good cook.
Well, no. When said person is in my house and they're, if you could just hold that thought for a minute, I've got to go and look after the potatoes. Reed, I will never return to this conversation as long as I have breath.
Yeah. I can remember said to my mother once. I was probably about 12 years old. Who's that old lady sitting in the corner of the room there? She said, "That's your Auntie Eunice." And I said, "Who the is Auntie Eunice?"
What? How old were you?
12.
Was your language that bad then?
It explains
a lot. Such a pot.
Yes.
Explains a lot.
I still don't know who the Auntie Eunice was, by the way.
Did you sit on a knee?
I mean, we used
to
to have an Auntie Kitty, and we'd have to go and see Auntie Kitty. And Auntie Kitty was terrifying because I think she got hit by a truck or something like that, and she was bedbound, and she got a lot of compensation that she used to keep in cash under the bed. But she only ever had perfectly manicured nails, but she'd make me look lightly bearded.
Really? Yeah.
And she'd get the nails, and you'd feel them in the back of your head, and she'd bring you in for a kiss, and you'd get the bit. Oh, don't.
Kitty, Eunice.
Only at Christmas. Kev?
Secret Santa, I mean, one of the many sort of Christmas traditions that we could do without. And this, of course, tends to happen in your office, and you get given a name that you don't even know who it is, and you've got to buy them a present. And even if you do know who it is, you don't know them very well, so you don't know what the hell to get them. But if you don't know who it is at all, I mean, how do you go forward?
It's easy. Fake dog turd. Works every time.
Or a real one.
Or what about a gift voucher?
I thought when you were beginning with a G, I thought you were going to say gimp mask.
Well, yeah, actually, that would be a good present.
Yeah, he doesn't like to give away his collection.
Exactly.
The worst gift you could give to...
Dildo.
How about this for the Secret Santa in the office? Give someone a puppy.
It is for Christmas.
It's a pet St. Bernard for you.
That small dog.
That's it. I've worked out what I'm doing at the next Secret Santa.
I wonder how Paul Ross got his, how he got those dogs.
Yeah, there you go.
Gift for Christmas.
Yep.
Well, I mean, but the thing about Secret Santa is, you know, we're all getting involved. What about if I don't want to? You know, get in the spirit of it.
Well, then you'll
and you said you used the word tradition to describe it. Since when?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a quite relatively new.
It's a new thing. It's a new. Well, the simple fact that it uses the word Santa rather than Father Christmas.
Yeah.
Now, my lovely wife does not like the term Santa. She's like, it's Father Christmas. Santa is an Americanism.
I can understand that. But then Father Christmas is a Germanism and also an Americanism and invented by Coca-Cola. So let's get on with the festive, spirit of commerciality.
I did get...
Do you know that the National Trust have replaced Santa with... Father Christmas.
Mother trans.
Mother
trans.
I don't know whether she's trans, but she is Mother
Almost
Christmas.
certainly will be. Almost.
A female equivalent of Santa. But you know why Santa's red?
Yeah, Coca-Cola.
Yeah, he was originally green.
I got in a Secret Santa once. I got this guy Bob who I didn't know who it was, and I said, well, what? They said Bob collects stamps. So I said, well, of course he does. So I got him a book of first-class stamps.
That costs a fortune nowadays.
Yeah,
that was a very generous gift.
Yeah, that's very generous of you.
He was pleased.
Yeah, it's very generous of you, because I've never seen your generosity before.
Well, Bob was thrilled.
Yeah, well, that was my name for the day, Bob.
Whatever happened to Bob and his stamp collection?
He's sitting next to you.
He's got a fantastic collection of stamps.
Even though he had a book of all the same, you didn't buy him a variation of different
I just
stamps.
got him
There you go, Bob.
Issue. Have some stamps.
So it's got the Queen's head on it and everything.
Yeah.
It's got everything. But the other thing about it is there's a £5 limit.
Yeah, that's right.
So what
are you trying to buy?
But forgive me, but if you have a £5 limit, there is nothing better than, for example, going to your local charity shop and seeing if you can get the biggest amount of toot. So we have a little golf competition at Christmas where you have to buy something, and it's actually gone up because of inflation. It's now £5.57.
Oh my God.
And last year, I bought a rather large horse that I found in the charity shop. For actually under budget.
What, a real
horse? A China horse. It was
China.
Absolutely revolting and quite large.
Moving on. James, Christmas songs on every radio station from the 1st of December. Is that such a bad thing, James?
So it's 40 years since Wham brought out Last Christmas, and they got to number 2 because Band-Aid was number 1 and all that sort of stuff.
Wrong year to bring that out, George.
And there were a lot of... Sadly, he's no longer here to hear. But there used to be a big battle for the Christmas number 1, and it may or may not be Christmassy, and there were lots of other songs, and there were lots of things that were going on in the charts, and it was all varied. Whereas now, and I don't know when it happened, was it a decade ago? And it's just wall-to-wall Christmas songs, the same ones. It's now got to the stage that Mariah Carey, she does those almost joke TikToks where she launches, and then she does the sort of the first one, it's time, because that is, along with all the other songs that have Driving Home for Christmas, all these other things.
Right, quick straw poll, worst Christmas songs. Anything by Cliff
Mistletoe and
Richard?
Wine.
Yeah, I was going to say anything
I love
by
that
Christmas.
one.
The Pogues, Can't Bear It.
Really?
Oh, dreadful. I could have done better myself while shouting at the dogs.
Okay.
Awful.
I mean, I don't really like any of them much. But, you know, Noddy Holding for Merry Christmas, you know, that song.
Yeah.
It's Christmas. He makes, on average, £450,000 every year.
And Bublé, with his endless Christmas albums.
But I wish...
Stop it, Bublé.
When you hear Roy Wood going, I wish it could be Christmas every day, you think, thank Christ it's not.
Yeah. No, there is
Well, he's the right person to thank.
Is he still around, old Roy?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah, he's still with us.
1,000.
You've got to feel sorry for shop workers because, honestly, day in, day out...
All restaurant teams in restaurants, I mean,
I actually... I say to them, do you get fed up with this? They say, we don't hear it.
In Home Slice Pizza, 3 sites in central London, should you wish for something different
Did you bring pizza in?
No, I didn't bring pizza.
You did last week.
I did last week. You should have been here.
NFI'd I was.
If you want a break from turkey, it's a fantastic alternative. But what we do is we allow the teams to just not... They can play Christmas playlist, non-Christmas playlist, Christmas playlist, non, so they can cycle them throughout the day.
That's very thoughtful.
And there is no Cliff Richard on our Christmas playlist.
Yeah, because he does logs on the fire, and that's just not right.
Well, exactly. They just don't. They just don't burn. Right, Greg. There's something to do with what you have in front of you, isn't there?
Rubbish jokes in rip-off crackers.
There you go.
Oh,
come on. Pull one of those.
Come on, Kev.
Well, there's two things I particularly hate about crackers.
There we go.
Well, there's everything I hate about crackers. Number one, the cack jokes. The jokes are always cack. Number two, I personally have never found a hat in a cracker that fits. Have you got the hat there, James?
Yeah.
I have a massive head.
Yes, you do.
It is huge. It's ridiculous.
It filled with?
Cack. Cack is the word of the day.
Yeah,
well, have a look at this. Look, if I put that on my head...
I got some glasses to go with my glasses.
Look, it's ripped. It's gone. I'll tell you a story about my head. When I was born, I got a nurse
I think you ripped that deliberately to make a point.
No. I got a nurse in trouble because she wrote down my length and she wrote my head circumference. And the sister came in and she said, you've written his length where his head should be and his head where his length should be. She said, no, I haven't. She said, yes, you have. No one's got those sort of dimensions. She said, I have not. So the sister whipped.
Can you turn into profile for me? I need to see the depth of
head.
It's a little bit John Merrick, but not completely. What about the jokes? Go on, let's...
What did one snowman say to the other snowman?
You're a snowman.
Do you smell carrots?
Oh, OK.
I've got who says, oh, 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 Santa walking backwards.
They're not great, are they?
No.
Why can't Christmas trees knit? Because they lose their needles.
No. And you've got the toys. I mean, these are very, very cheap crackers, 12 for $3.49. But the toys, even in the most so-called luxurious crackers, they're absolutely rubbish. OK, you get the traditional thimble, but you get a plastic something. And
No. It's the tiny cheese grater. Have you ever had the tiny cheese grater? What's that useful for?
Well, it's very useful for a little bit of Parmigiano.
No, come on. It's about that big. You'll be there grating forever to cover... what are you doing, canapes?
Yes. Yeah. Lovely.
But honestly, crackers, don't see the point in them. Kids might find them exciting.
I like a cracker. I'm not interested on what's inside. Because look at how you end up looking.
You look very sexy, Mark.
Thank you. Now, I want to talk about something. So, I know we are in the age of the digital Christmas card now, and very few people send a proper Christmas card.
And they say they're giving money to charity.
Well, whatever. Right. But it's the people who still send one and insist on including a long letter bringing you up to speed with what's happened to them and their family.
Oh, the round robins.
Yeah, the round robin at the end of the year. I haven't spoken to you all year. I don't know any of this. And what makes you think I care? Why?
I used to do a little bit of a feature, which I stole off somebody else, that we had people send in the round robins that they'd received during the year, and then we read them out.
That's very
good. And it was extremely entertaining because of the ridiculous nonsense that you were told about this child or that child. And it really was, I don't care! No. I don't care! Shut up!
That's why I haven't seen you all year.
Tarquin recently made the under-15s, while his sister Ophelia has not got out of bed since.
But if you think about it, this is where Mark Zuckerberg and the social media gang were very clever, insofar as he spotted that people have this need, this desire to send you long letters about Johnny went to Oxford, he's doing very well, and you remember Sara, well, she's got a job at the Prudential, and so on and so forth. They have this need to sort of treat themselves like news stories.
Overshare.
And tell you all about themselves. And so Zuckerberg said, well, why don't we showcase that on a social media website, call it Facebook, and guess what? It's a massive success. Because people just think they're interesting, don't they?
And
people
really
think they are interesting.
But also the other one
You're going to love these pictures of me doing something.
Are they the same people who put the round-robin missives are the ones who send you a terrifying picture of them as a family and make a card out of that as well?
That's generally not acceptable.
All wearing the same jumpers.
Or pyjamas.
Or nothing.
I'm hoping that you've all had a really, really Merry Christmas. If you've got an idea for a round robin for next year, hold on to it. I would like to thank Santa's sacked elves, Greg, James and Kev, who are going to jolly their way through the rest of Christmas. I'd like to also say a special thank you to Mike Graham for his dandruff that's been falling in the background the whole way through. And, of course, to Chuck, our producer, and the team. And here's to a grumpy 2025.
This is a woke-free zone. If you're woke, get out. If they expand the ULEZ zone any further, it's going to be in the sea. No one's going to work anymore. Everyone's at home. They're all sick. It's absolutely ridiculous. Can anyone get me onto a flight to Rwanda? I fancy a holiday. Have you seen the trains lately? No, neither have I. It's straight talking. It's no nonsense. It's common sense all the way. Tune in to Morning Glory with Mike Graham for opinions you won't hear anywhere else.
So it is Talk, it is Drive Time, Monday through the week from 4 p.m, the show that's going to be about you. It's not about us, this is the home of common sense. The things that matter in your everyday life, the issues that resonate with you. Spent 2 years talking at you, I want you to talk at me. I'm tired, I'm getting old. Make it talk, the home of common sense. We're going digital, make sure you're ready. Drive Time with JK is on Monday through the week from 4 p.m. Do join us.
Hello and welcome to our festive Clash of the Titans with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer, Grinch Kevin O'Sullivan and two crackers, Russell Quirk and Peter Caldwell, standing in for JK and MG. Well, while Starmer's fizz has well and truly lost its sparkle, Trump has bounced back like a Christmas cracker. The BBC's baubles have smashed to bits, and despite Andrew and Meghan's best efforts, the royals have proved they're still the crown jewels of resilience. What a show we have for you. Roll the titles. What a year it has been, and so much to celebrate this Christmas, as long as you're not British. The return of Trump in America after surviving that assassination attempt and election victories for centre-right parties across Europe, a new world order is being established. Except here in Britain, of course, where we're stuck with Grinch Keir Starmer and his miserable comrades in incompetence and hypocrisy. The ghost of the 1970s Christmas is past, well and truly here to haunt us. Inflation is up, unemployment is up, immigration up over 1 million a year. And he's only been Prime Minister for 5.5 months. The honeymoon lasted less time than Augustus Gloop's Advent calendar. In fact, Starmer is so unpopular, his only friends left are train drivers and Sadiq Khan. Sorry, Sir Sadiq Khan. Well, the Prime Minister has been off globe-trotting as our problems mount up at home, and Rachel Reeves has clobbered the farmers, working all hours to provide our turkey and sprouts on Christmas Day. He's just been in Norway, but told his kids he didn't have time to visit Santa Claus because he's been too busy turning Britain into crapland. The Tories are still hopelessly short of any wise men or indeed wise women. So it's Nigel Farage and Reform snaffling all the gold, and the frankincense and myrrh too, probably. It's been another annus horribilis for the royal family too. Prince Andrew and Harry and Meghan are the unwanted gifts that just keep on giving, aren't they? No doubt the King will reference his and Kate's cancer battles in his TV Christmas message. Maybe you'll be seeing it on the BBC, but, well, most of the BBC has been in the news for the wrong reasons. So many scandals this year. Hugh Edwards, Greg Wallace, the Strictly Bullying row, that Charles might want to think about broadcasting it just on TalkTV next year. We are, of course, ready to serve Your Majesty. Anyway, so that's a nice little roundup of what's been going on in 2024. Good knows what's going to happen in 2025. I'm joined by the boys. Got our Christmas hats on. I have to say, I mean, I don't want to be a Grinch at Christmas, but goodness me, things have been pretty darn bad, have they not? And I have to say, most of it seems to me to come down to our new Prime Minister. It feels like he's been Prime Minister for about 5.5 years, but it's actually about 5.5 months. And it's going, I think we can safely say, pretty darn badly. Would that be the
I think that's the consensus.
That seems to be the consensus,
Yeah.
even from Labour voters.
And if you count the days that he's actually been in Great Britain, he's been Prime Minister for about 5 days.
Six. Never hear Keir.
Never hear Keir, yeah. So it was free gear Keir, two-tier Keir, and never. I mean, it's
Never hear Keir.
The latest
Oh
polls.
dear, Keir.
The latest polls of the last week show that 61% of Britons are dissatisfied with him. His net approval rating is below any other Prime Minister in
He's
like,
officially
in my
the worst
lifetime.
Prime Minister of Britain ever.
Yeah, I mean,
Officially
I think if Liz Truss had got to 5.5 months in her dreams, she might have been just as unpopular. But given there was this supposed wave of excitement, it's quite astonishing, isn't it? I mean, let's think, we've had winter fuel payments taken away. We had train drivers getting a big pay rise because, of course, decisions and choices being made. We had two-tier justice, of course, with the handling of the riots and attacks on our freedom of speech. We've had all the freebies, the free gear Keir, the budget, national insurance rises for employers, inheritance tax for farmers. As you say, he's always abroad. I mean, it's just non-stop, Peter.
It's the choices as well that you make. They say to govern is to choose. And the choice he has made, and Rachel Reeves, as Chancellor, has made, has really been about those who have done well out of this administration. And they've been the usual suspects. The ASLEF train drivers, the junior doctors. OK, they needed to sort that out. There's no doubt about that. But there are loads of people who will freeze this winter, who won't get their payments for whatever reason. There are lots of small businesses as well that are really thinking about national insurance rises as well.
Were they going to have to make job cuts or not hire someone?
But the crux of this is Starmer self-harmer, isn't it? That yes, he's had to make choices, but the two major problems that he's encountered were self-caused because it was, of course, the winter fuel allowance, axing that. They didn't need to do it.
No,
that
came out of the
save
blue,
much
didn't
money.
it?
And then, of course, the farmers' inheritance tax, again, won't save much money, didn't need to do it. And the reason that Labour did both of these things was class warfare. They don't like old people because they voted Brexit and they don't tend to vote Labour, and they don't like people in rural communities because they're traditional Tory supporters. It's as simple as that. So for ideological reasons, unnecessary reasons, this government has ruined itself.
But it's also, Kevin, you're right. I don't disagree with anything you've said. It's also things they've got themselves into, as well as things they've voluntarily done. The winter fuel allowance could have been part of the budget, for example. They could have taken some of the heat around that. But they did about a month beforehand.
I mean, I can understand. You're ahead of a budget. We used to, when I was a political journalist way back in the day, anything that was leaked from the budget, that would be a sacking offence, a resigning offence.
There's a month before.
Now you know about things months and months before, and they leak it themselves. But you're only supposed to put out the stuff that's good news, aren't you? So that you get a load of separate headlines for that. But
there's that. So you've got on the one side the Marxism, which I guess we shouldn't be surprised
Do you
about,
think they are? Do you
yes,
think they
100%.
Really are?
This follows a particular MO, which is identify who we think is the pantomime villain rich, which is older people, business owners, wealth creators, entrepreneurs, and of course, who would have thought pensioners, farmers as well, and literally take that money and give it to your mates.
Because train drivers are famously hard up on the basic 65k for a 4-day week.
Of course, it was all fun. How they survived it. But and so Keir Starmer talks about ordinary working people. Let's translate that as what it really means, which is the public sector. That's what it is.
Their Marxist project is this. They are taxing the hell out of the private sector in order to take that money and give it to the public sector.
Because the public sector works so well.
That's Marxism. They don't understand how it feeds in. But then you've got the Marxism on one side. But then, of course, let's not forget the utter deception. The way that this government took power under false pretences, an electoral fraud, I think it is, in terms of the way that they deceived the electorate. They didn't tell us anything that they've actually done, and they haven't done anything that they said they were going to do.
But the thing that I find absolutely extraordinary about the whole thing is that they knew they were going to be in power. They knew for at least a year, probably 2 years, and they still just kept making promise of promise. And then they started backtracking. Oh, no, we're not offering much. But even Labour voters, I know, people who've genuinely gone, Keir Starmer is the saviour of the world. The world's going to be so... The choice was so awful.
The adults are in charge. The Titanic didn't have a comms problem. The Titanic had an iceberg problem.
Well, it did, actually.
I think more like Tony Blair
wasn't working very well.
Tony Blair could have sold it better. Well, I wonder who has been selling things better, and that is comeback of the year, undoubtedly, which is Donald Trump. I mean, who would have predicted that to have happened? Russell, you want to talk about this? Because while it's been miserable for us here in the UK, there's been a lot of cheer stateside.
Well, I think there'll be a lot of excitement and optimism across the United States. He is the 45th and now the 47th President of the United States. Some people seem to be rather uncomfortable with that. And actually, in all of this kind of Trumpism, and he's, really runaway victory, his landslide victory, which, of course, none of the pollsters really predicted. I mean, some of them were totally and utterly embarrassed by them saying, actually, I think Harris is going to win or it's going to be close. But the wonderful thing in all of this is the fact that the left are apoplectic about the fact that Trump has won. To the point that you can't go onto an American airline with a Trump cap on without a stewardess apparently coming over and saying, that's a bit offensive, could you take it off, please? It's hilarious. It's wonderful.
I feel that way about baseball caps generally.
Except Trump's triumph has sort of lifted the veil. And even in New York, which is supposed to be a Trump-hating city, people are walking around with MAGA hats now. So all of those people in America who didn't used to admit they were Trump supporters now do admit it. And I think what's happened here is a sea change in world politics. If I hear those Reform UK guys go one more time, Sunday Times just made up that story about Elon Musk giving us money. Really? Of course he's going to give them money. Now, Reform UK, spurred on by Elon Musk, will carry Trump's mantle to Britain and maybe, just maybe, assume power, and then we can drop all this net zero crap and all the nonsense.
That would be a good thing. Look, I've not been a fan of Donald Trump. I think there's lots of reasons why he's unfit for public office, but my God, Kamala Harris was worse. And I think there's a lot of stuff he wants to do on net zero, on immigration, on the economy that I really, really support. You don't have to necessarily think someone is a morally good soul to say he's better than the alternative. The so-called moderate alternative is not. Kamala Harris is an extremist, radical and utterly incompetent, idiot. Those are the choices.
And Donald Trump is a sort of cartoonish figure, or almost a sort of Victorian grotesque or something. But scrape away the orange face and the weird hair, and the Americana aspect of his personality. And what he talks is common sense. I'm not going to charge you great big high energy bills because I'm going to get rid of net zero. I'm going to keep your fuel prices low. I'm going to keep your food prices low, and I'm going to seal our borders and get rid of all the illegals. People like that.
Contrast our economy in 2 or 3 years' time versus the American economy.
God.
Bit like we've seen in Argentina under Milei, who's already seeing 8% per annum GDP growth against our reduction.
Although it's
because
easy
of
when
his
you're coming from a very low
but that's a big GDP number. And I suspect we'll see exactly the same in the US over the next 2 or 3 years because he's assembled a cabinet of individuals that understand the economy. And
Elon Musk is my big
But what
hope
have
there.
we done? We've assembled a cabinet of people that have never even had a job, let alone know anything about business.
They are so out of their depths, this bunch. So even the ones who experience.
And Trump now gets it. He didn't perhaps get it in 2016. He gets it now. Look at how much has happened during the transition already. It's about a month to go. So many things are in place. There's radical change coming down the track. America is going to change, and he gets it. He understands you've got to, as soon as your feet touch the ground, you've got to start running.
Now, also bring it home now in terms of the whole Trumpism thing to here. Just this week, we've seen Nick Candy, who's the new Treasurer of Reform, and Nigel Farage go to Mar-a-Lago to meet, guess who? Elon Musk. Now, to be a fly on the wall in that room this week, what do we think that translates to over the next 2 or 3 years?
Tim Montgomery, he's now defected to Reform. He thinks 20 million is coming Reform.
These are huge sums of money. Will that be a game changer? We know that Nigel Farage made it really clear. He didn't want it to be all about Reform just affecting the Tory policy on promising a Brexit referendum or getting Boris Johnson elected, get Brexit done, and not Jeremy Corbyn in 2019. He said, "I've been done with that. The Tories are they're Labour light. You need us." He doesn't want to be a protest vote. He wants to be the government. But do you think that Elon Musk's money will make that difference?
Well, I think it'll make a difference. It'll make a difference if Kemi Badenoch doesn't raise her game and fast. I mean, the Tories have disappeared as a voice of opposition.
Well, she still needs to. Look at the MPs
five Reform MPs are making the racket of their lives, really disrupting. They're the opposition. What is Badenoch doing?
Reform are going to perform a political revolution.
I think so.
Well, it's going to be very interesting. Well, we'll talk about this no doubt many more times over next year. Coming up next on Clash of the Titans, the BBC's baubles smashed to bits while the Royals proved their resilience. Well, some of them did. Stay right here. Welcome back to Clash of the Titans with me, Julia Hollybrewer, and the boys. Well, one of the boys here, Peter Coble. You want to talk about events this year involving the BBC.
Our national broadcaster, the licence fee has gone up, yet scandal after scandal after scandal. Hugh Edwards, a lot of people focus, of course, on the court case and the fact that he got a suspended sentence because of his looking at paedophilic images. But what they neglect in all of that is how he treated younger staff. There will be there is an inquiry into all of that, but we still don't know about it. Still waiting for Russell Brand.
A lot of his behaviour was well known at the BBC.
Well, of course. We're still waiting for the Russell Brand report a year on. Greg Wallace, the most recent one, horrendous and very, very serious allegations there in regard to what he allegedly was up to on MasterChef. He's been sort of basically cancelled around this. Strictly Come Dancing not getting off either. Why can't the BBC get their house... Tim Westwood. Why can't the BBC get their house in order? Why can't they manage these situations? Why can't they manage these big...
Is it a problem specifically at the BBC, or is it a problem with people working in telly?
I can explain it. Yeah, well, the first rule of showbiz journalism is the BBC is useless. It is. It's a massive, great behemoth, massively overstaffed, run by old men in grey suits who have no idea what they're doing. Every Director General is a disaster. Tim Davie, I think, deserves special mention because he's a particular disaster. They just stumble from one scandal to the next and nearly
why?
Well, because first of all, I'll tell you why. Because when it's a big organisation, you're bound to get the odd Greg Wallace and the odd Tim Westwood and all that, and you have to deal with that. Or Jimmy Savile. But they don't. And what do they do? What do they do? Their first impulse.
Can I say, by the way, some of those illegal allegations that no actual,
their first instinct at the BBC to this day is cover up, keep it secret, don't tell the people who pay for us, as in the public. So it's this urge to secrecy.
It's not just a telly thing. There's a special ingredient within the BBC, which is that they take money as a tax, which we all have to pay, regardless actually of whether you actually watch the BBC or not. And therefore, because it's mandatory, there is no scrutiny and there is no accountability. You cannot have an organisation that is not accountable to anybody. Because guess what happens when there's no accountability, no scrutiny? Bad behaviour, shock.
But I think so much of this is about that celebrity culture. There's talk about there's people who work on shows, and then there's the talent, and some people, because they're considered to be so bigger than their shows, that they're able to get away with, sexual harassment or much more serious allegations. And there's a range of allegations. They are massively wide-ranging, from inappropriate comments to allegations of rape. And again, people who have been denying these claims. We must make that clear. And I don't want people sort of cancelled because someone said they didn't like the way someone spoke to someone 10 or 20 years ago. But some of these allegations are so strict. You'd think they'd have learned the lessons from the very serious allegations made about Jimmy Savile, very serious allegations made about a number of Radio 1 DJs. But they didn't learn the lessons.
They don't need to, because no one does anything about it.
And no one gets sacked, and there's no accountability. And it is down to management, because look, if you say something or do something as a presenter in an office, and the manager comes up to you and says, that's not okay, don't do that, well, then your card is marked. The problem is that these people are allowed to get away with it. You have very senior people in the BBC saying, I must have Greg Wallace for that programme. I must have...
Is he the great crowd puller?
No, he's not.
And there's no...
He was their pet working class person. They always have one. But listen, I'll tell you a story about the BBC, because I knew, I still do know, one of Hugh Edwards' victims, if you like, a very attractive young gay guy who started receiving intimate pictures of Hugh Edwards' private parts and invitations to hotels, and it became so oppressive that my friend went to HR at the BBC.
He worked at the BBC?
Yeah, he was a producer, and he went to the BBC and said, look, this has got to stop, I can't carry on like this. But do you know what HR said to him? Well, it's Hugh Edwards. Are you sure you want to carry on with this?
Isn't that...
That's it. They venerate anyone behind the microphone.
But this is the extraordinary thing. You'd think it'd be the opposite way around, because he's so high profile. This is the man, who was talking, joining us as a nation as we watched the Queen's funeral. He was there for the King's, coronation. He's there for the general elections. This man is so high profile. You'd think you want to be extra careful that the person who is fronting these shows of international importance...
No, but if you're at the BBC and you're bulletproof...
would be required to
But if you're bulletproof, it encourages you to behave.
The key point in all of this is that the only thing that any broadcasting organisation has, beyond the vast resources the BBC has, is trust.
Yeah.
And if there are loads of people you can set up in your kitchen, you can have a channel on YouTube, it can be far more successful than maybe many BBC programmes, for example, if you've got decent lighting and decent audio and whatever. But what the BBC has, or at least had, was trust. And if you don't trust them, and if you're paying them a huge amount of money, people are going to go elsewhere, and they're voting with their feet.
Anyway, let's move on. We touched on this. We talk about bad behaviour and people getting away with things because they're venerated. This also links in, of course, with the royal family, or certain members of it anyway. Kevin, you want to talk about the royals, or at least some of them.
Some of them. Well, we could talk about most of them, actually. I mean, it's been an annus horribilis for so many members of the royal family, two of whom deserve our utmost sympathy. And we have to pay tribute. The reason the royals carry on being popular is because despite oafs like Harry and Andrew, you have the King and Kate, the Princess of Wales, both suffering cancer and both handling themselves with great dignity and grace. And the nation has rallied behind those two great members of the royal family. Here's to William as well for doing his bit. Here's to the entire royal family, frankly, who we ought to be proud of. They do a good job, apart from the two absolute loser oafs, Harry and Andrew. Harry must wake up every day saying, thank God I've got Uncle Andy, because then he takes the flack away from me.
I mean, Prince Harry's never done anything as wrong as Prince Andrew, ever. And he fought for us in a war, for God's sake. Give him some credit.
Harry and Meghan have really had an annus horribilis. Basically, their Netflix contract is on the point of being cancelled. His series about polo was an absolute disaster. It looks like they're not even going to show her already filmed cooking series. They're so.
What about her jam? When's her jam coming out? That's
American
pots of it, something like that.
American Riviera Orchard was launched in March, is not yet open for business, and is unlikely ever to do so.
I was going to start my own Hartley's jam, and it was going to be British seaside. British seaside slots. Yes, you know. I mean, exactly.
By the way, we've just got the traditional Christmas card from Harry and Meghan, which starts off with This is their Christmas card. This is what it says at the top. From the office of
and it also Harry, of course, because it's truly and properly woke, doesn't mention the word Christmas.
No, it's Happy Holidays, which should be a shooting offence.
But I tell you, in fairness, in America, everyone says Happy Holidays. They really do. But we've got the traditional pictures of the back of the kids' heads. Those kids are going to get recognised by the back of their heads. We've seen them so often. We never see their faces. Now, everything has gone wrong for them. Those two weird pretend royal tours to Nigeria and Colombia. What was that about?
I'm assuming because it's Harry and Meghan that it's money.
Well, the thing with Harry and Meghan is that what they are now realising really, really rapidly and really brutally is that with every day that passes, they get a little bit further and further and further away from the royal family, and their relevance decreases and decreases
and their
revenue
decreases.
Well, their revenue decreases, and they're trying to stay relevant. But the only way they can stay relevant is talking about the thing they used to be a part of in relation to that.
And
nobody cares about them themselves.
No, at some point, we're going to have genuinely the most. There was so much excruciating stuff in that Netflix documentary. It was a great watch, to be fair, but they kind of sold their souls. In his book, he kind of sold his soul. At some point, again, it's like that celebrity thing. Well, eventually, you know, you're Kim Kardashian, you have to show your bum.
I've got one question. We all know what's going on now. Let's call this guy, what's his name?
H6.
H6. He is a spy. Our courts have decided twice this guy is a spy, so I'm not interested in his denials. He is a Chinese spy. He was a close associate of Prince Andrew for 10 years, both personally and professionally. He was his business contact in Beijing. We got a problem here. Now, recently, Andrew was on the point of being kicked out of the Royal Lodge, his grandiose home in Windsor Great Park that he's lived in for 30 years because he couldn't afford the maintenance. He needed £3 million. Everybody knows. Everybody knows he's skint. Suddenly, 3 weeks ago, I've got the money. Where did he get it? Did he get it from H6? We need to know. This is serious.
This is the problem, though,
this is serious.
When you become a semi-detached royal, any accountability, the palace looking at your accounts, all of that goes. And the fact is, there's no way to get that back with Andrew or indeed with Harry as well.
And I say the lack of accountability. This is a man we know has got poor judgment. We've had some royal commentators talking about he's been naive. Well, I mean, I think the MI5 and MI6 were a bit sodding naive to allow this Chinese spy to get so close to Prince Andrew. But look, this is a man, Prince Andrew, who was so naive, he thought that he would go visit a convicted child sex trafficker, a paedophile, in Jeffrey Epstein, and go and stay his house for 4 days. Security services allowed that to happen, to apparently break up his friendship from
It's
him.
not naivety.
Because he's a gentleman.
It's not naivety.
Exactly.
When he's done that,
he has
and then he's
terrible
done it
judgment.
again.
But look, Prince Andrew has never met a dodgy millionaire or billionaire that he didn't like.
Yeah,
Not one. Not
He
one.
scrounges
But
money
the
from.
security services warned him directly about this character, about H6, and he ignored the warning.
But look on
But he shouldn't be allowed to ignore
But
the
look on
warnings.
the bright side.
He's not allowed to have the trappings of the royal family and still live in their grace and
But
favour
look on the
house
bright side.
and
This
not
is the
listen.
first time we've ever had a sentence with the words Prince Andrew and intelligence. It's a sentence.
Well, more to the point, he's actually
Slightly
thrilled.
different context,
He's
I think,
actually
there, Peter.
thrilled because he has been described as China's useful idiot. And as he's telling friends, it's the first time anyone said I'm being useful. So there you go. So it's all working out for him.
Prince Andrew being useful. On that note, I mean, it's an unlikely note, and Prince Andrew and intelligence being in the same sentence, I think we'll need to end it. Thank you very much, chaps. Great to have you join us. I can't believe we wore the hats the whole way through.
Merry Christmas,
we can't.
everybody.
Indeed, Merry Christmas to everyone.
Christmas.
That is all from us of the Clash of the Titans this year. A huge big thank you to Kevin O'Sullivan, to Russell Quirk, and to Peter Caldwell. We will be back, of course, in 2025. Remember, you can catch more from us on Talk all week. Tune in on your radio, online, on your smart speaker. Don't forget to subscribe to Talk on YouTube.
I'll tell you what has absolutely scuppered common sense. This whole area of identity politics. What I look like, what I feel. It's a microaggression. No, it's not. It's called life, mate. I don't care about your identity. Nobody cares about your hurty feelings. We're all a little bit different. We celebrate that. We're not going to legislate for the fact that you are obsessed with who you are and your feelings. Join me, Ian Collins, weekdays from 1.
Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Welcome to Plank of the Week, and as you can see, it's a very special Plank of the Week because it's a Christmas special Plank of the Week. So, we're still going to have plenty of plankery, and we're still going to have a brilliant panel, and I'm going to introduce them to you any second now, but we just want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, and thank you for watching us all through the year. It's been a pleasure. We've got Jeremy Kyle, we've got Amanda Devlin.
Happy Christmas.
We've got Sir James Whale, and we've got Peter Blacksley. Very nice to see all of you. Jeremy, you're going to kick us off. I see you've got some tinsel there.
My plank of the week is this odious woman, this OnlyFans model. I don't know if you know about her, Victoria Thomas Bowen. So this idiot throws a milkshake over Farage on the campaign trail in Clacton, a seat he went on to win. And we discover this week that she admitted assault by beating and criminal damage, and she hasn't been jailed.
No.
She's been fined a paltry amount of money, £17.50 worth of damage to his jacket, and about £170 worth of costs. And so we come back to it. That is assault. That could have been, I mean, Pete would back me up, that could have been anything. Could have been a gun, could have been acid, could have been anything.
Why didn't his security people wrestle her to the ground?
I'll say the wrong thing.
And only this week, story of an alkaline attack happening
in
at the Hyde Park, Winter Wonderland. Right. It could have been anything.
It could have been so much worse.
If she'd thrown acid at him, I mean, what would have happened there?
Let's have a look at the news story.
A woman's pleaded guilty to assault by beating after throwing a milkshake over the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage in Clacton-on-Sea earlier this year. Victoria Bowen also admitted criminal damage.
It is ridiculous, isn't it? Because, I mean, Donald Trump got shot during the campaign in America, and he actually said that he blamed the rhetoric from some of his opponents on winding people up like this. And you can say the same here, because there are people in this country who wind up other people with rhetoric about people like Nigel Farage.
But it's very easy for them to slag off Nigel Farage. The point is absolutely, as you said, that it could have been acid, it could have been anything. And we live in a society where a woman can post something on Facebook and get 15 months in prison. And she can do that with a milkshake. It was a milkshake, but it could have been acid, and walks away free. It's ludicrous.
We've had 2 MPs murdered. It's it's so terrible. And what I hated, actually, was her walking out as if she's on a catwalk.
Yeah.
She's got her big sunglasses on. I mean, she's obviously not taking it seriously.
She's all dolled up.
And I just think for her to walk into court like that was just... I was just taking the mick, wasn't it? And then her to come out, and she smirked. She didn't care. She knows she got away with it.
And all followers. And also, and the judge even made a point of saying that she had shown no remorse whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so he suspended her sentence. The guy who threw an egg at Jeremy Corbyn went to prison.
Yeah.
The guy who threw an egg at John Prescott went to prison.
Yeah. It all depends on your
It all depends on the politician,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think the judge in the case is also famous for letting some people off if they happen to be people that are, I'll say, of a left-wing persuasion, demonstrating unjust stop orders.
I mean, you do get to a point, and I'll shut up, but you do get to a point where you think you can do that, right? You can be a paedophile who sends the images to Dirty Hugh Edwards, because he this week gets away with nothing, right? He's got a suspended sentence. So we've got paedophiles and people who commit assault, Peter Blacksley, walking around this country. But a woman that put something that was wrong on Facebook would have been the absolute person to say, I'm going to teach you why that's wrong and educate you. She's in the clink for 15 months. Ludicrous.
And all of those cases do not have a deterrent element. So it's not going to get any better. The paedophiles are going to carry on sharing their filth. And people are going to carry on, potentially, I hope not, but assaulting politicians.
Well, there's no reason not to, because you know you're not going to go to jail. She's got a suspended sentence.
Judges. How can we get rid of judges? Because some of these limp-wristed judges do not deserve to be
I think they should have some kind of a league table of judges, and you can go up or down, and if you go below a certain level, because you've made too many stupid decisions, you're out.
I'm not sticking up for judges, but Pete said something on my show last night. It's the sentencing council.
Yeah.
They are absolutely bound by what is on the statute book. And again...
But that's plainly not true, is it? Because look what they did during the summer. You know, when they started locking people up straight away because they felt like it. Because they felt like it.
Yeah, and we had Starmer using phrases like full force of the law. Those kind of phrases are notably absent when Nigel Farage gets
funnily enough.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at what Richard Tice had to say.
And the bricks at him, remember that? He didn't get punished.
No, they didn't go to jail either, funnily enough. Here's what Richard Tice said.
This was a carefully calculated assault. That's what it was. It was an assault. And we've got two-tier justice You can put something daft in a tweet and go to jail for 2 years, even though you've taken it down and apologised after a couple of hours, and it wasn't premeditated or anything. It's proof that we have two-tier justice in this country.
Well, Keir Starmer doesn't like it when you say things like that. The other thing, just before we move on to Peter's next plank, did you see that story this week as well of the guy who was in Hugh Edwards' WhatsApp group, whose lawyer got up and said, well, since you didn't send Hugh Edwards to jail, I don't think you should send my client to jail either.
That's what
so they're going to start making all these arguments.
So you've now got legal precedent whereby you can be a pedo and get away with it. You've now got legal... You think that anybody else that attacks a politician now, the defence brief's going to go, well, you know that OnlyFans model with the big sunglasses, she got off, we're buggered. I don't understand what that says.
Let's move on. Khalid Bakar is your suggested plank.
Yes, Khalid Bakar. If you haven't heard of him, let me give you a little bit of detail on him. He's a convicted terrorist.
That's it.
Oh, yes. Back in 2018, he was arrested on the underground system for distributing jihadist material, trying to encourage people to enter into holy war.
Yes.
Convicted on 5 charges. Now, of course...
Yeah. And he went to prison, luckily,
yes,
for 4 years.
Yeah. Yes. Now he is free to roam the streets, unfortunately, of Amersham in Buckinghamshire. Wow. And there he was, having a little wander, and I gather Buckinghamshire's rather nice.
It is nice.
He's having a wander, and he walks past a boozer, and he looks up at the sign, doesn't go in, obviously, for a pint, you know, his faith and all that kind of game, looks up at the board, and it's called the Saracen's Head.
Yeah.
And this pub has been called that for over 500 years.
Why not, indeed?
And there's a picture of a sort of turbaned, brown-skinned man, and it's the title of the pub is almost
a Saracen,
homage.
you might say.
It's almost a tribute to the fierce kind of opponents that the Crusaders fought during those crusades in it.
Yeah.
So anyway, Mr. Khalid Bakar can't really take a compliment. And he got very distressed by this.
Yeah.
Racist it was.
He said it incited violence.
I'm distressed by his appalling and disgusting beard.
Yes, that is distressing.
I'm triggered by it.
I'd like to point out the irony of a man who is a jihadi propagandist who promotes beheading people is losing his rag over the head on the sign of a pub. 1,850 quid that he wants off this landlord who I had on my show.
Yeah.
If that is what this country's coming to and paedophiles are allowed to walk, it's a bloody joke, man.
Yeah, but he's left all that terrorism behind.
Oh, yeah, of course he has.
What is it you do? I'm a former terrorist, I suppose you would say, right?
And he's going to do it to 30 other pubs.
Because I know at least one other Saracen's Head in Bath. When I used to go to university in Bath, we used to go to the Saracen's Head. It's quite a nice pub. Used to find quite a lot of undercover cops in there for some reason or other. Right. Robbie Hayes is the name of the landlord, right? Yeah. He, as said, he received a letter from His Majesty's Courts and Tribunals Service at the end of November with a list of demands from your man, Bakar.
Why would they do that?
Why would they just say, get lost?
Why do they waste the ink printing it on
Because we live in a country that bends to the victim, that bends to the perpetrator, bends to every single different colour, caste and colour and creed and group. And a man, I mean, I had him on the show, Robbie, who's worked all his life. He said, I'm just trying to make a living, right? He said, this is ludicrous. We were doing it on the show. We were getting barristers will represent you free of charge. It's just ridiculous. But up there at the top...
What? Yeah. What? You love to throw your money around.
Bakar, right? Apparently he intends to launch similar legal actions against all sorts of pubs. And he gave this quote to The Independent, to The Sun, rather. I've always been offended by pub names like these, but I've only recently discovered how I can challenge them online.
I'm quite offended by somebody who spreads propaganda that says kill people and behead them. That, you know.
So I'm going to take him to the rugby. I'm not a big rugby person, but I'm going to take him to watch Saracens.
Yeah.
And see how stressed he gets for 80.
I've got a better idea. There's a pub round the back of Selfridges called the Cock and Lion. How much is that going to offend him?
Why would a cock and a lion offend you?
Well, it doesn't offend me, but it might offend him. He's offended by pub signs, this guy.
Well, I told you, his beard is really triggering me now.
Yeah,
the people who grow big beards like
I know.
that.
It is worrying.
Because it's religion.
It is worrying.
You know.
In Afghanistan, it's an offence to cut your beard.
Well,
that's why we don't live there.
Afghanistan we should never have left it to those appalling people. But don't get me started.
Anyway, over to you, James.
Christmas, everybody.
You're doing the National Trust, I believe.
Yeah, I probably am.
There's no Father Christmas. in the grottos. In
Well, I'm taking Oliver to one tomorrow. So what's going to be there?
You're going to find Mother Christmas instead. I'm not joking. Mother Christmas, right? Now, not only is there no Mother Christmas, but, you know, what's wrong with Father Christmas?
And a pox, if you'll excuse the expression, on all those local authorities who've done away with the word Christmas and call it Winterville.
Yes.
Yeah. Winterville?
Yeah,
Happy holidays.
Yeah,
Happy holidays, yeah.
Well, that was on Harry and Meghan's card, wasn't it? They do say that in America a lot. But this is not just the National Trust, but is used by the National Trust in almost, I think, every one of their properties. Yeah. But there's also garden centres are doing it. You know, they're saying that, you know, it's not fair to have Father Christmas. Why can we not have Mother Christmas as well?
Oh,
well, there isn't a Mother Christmas.
And what do you make of that?
I think it's just appalling.
It's mad, isn't it?
We're just, I mean, we're kind of rewriting history across all of the subjects we're talking about. But I hate when they try and just erase Christmas.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that we're all looking forward to in the year, right?
To do with
to try and get us through this horrible winter.
Yeah.
And then, changing it like that is just...
Well, somebody suggested to me this week, what if you decided to call Mother Nature Father Nature instead?
Oh.
Well, could we do that?
Oh.
No, shouldn't.
Daddy Nature.
Don't get me on that. Look at a football match. You now have a female commentator, quite rightly, on every man's game. With this female football on television, there is not a man in sight's a fact.
Yeah.
So wrong.
Let me show you something that might shock you. Let me show you something that might shock you. In America, 27% of American people want a gender-neutral Santa. Have a look.
Female or neutral gender. You heard right. 27% of Americans want Santa Claus to be either female or neutral gender, whatever. You have too much time in your hands, you morons. Neutral? Are you me? So what's he, like a G.I. Joe doll? There's nothing down there? How's Santa gonna pee? How's he gonna make love to Mrs. Claus? There you go. And stop messing with other people's lives. Don't tell me. I want to believe Santa Claus had a penis, okay? What's the big deal?
Yeah. Well, you know, in this day and age, of course, you could have a female Santa Claus with a penis.
Yeah, that's even worse. That's what I was worried about.
That is possible. That is possible. Technically, if you ask Keir Starmer, can Mother Christmas have a penis, he would say probably what? Yeah, but don't 1%.
How do you start explaining this to the kids?
I don't want to live here anymore. I want to go away. This is ludicrous.
You can't just take your kids to the grotto. They go in one side, they come out the other side with a present. As opposed to, you know, knowing whether Santa's got a penis or not.
I'm feeling inspired by car lead backer. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sue all the Mother Christmases, 1,850 quid, like you did, because I find it triggering and I find it offensive and all of that, and see how I get on.
See how you react to this. This is a shop in America called Target. You'll know what that is.
Yeah.
It's a big sort of superstore. You can buy everything you want there. They're selling some Santas. Have a look.
Target also sells Santa ornaments, but Target's Santa is in a wheelchair and is black. And it's a good thing our chimney is wheelchair accessible, so Jesse Jr. is going to get all the gifts he wants.
So now, if you want to get a Santa in a wheelchair that's black, you can. But as he said, thankfully the chimney is wheelchair accessible.
I quite often do that, balance it. Every time I go to my Indian restaurant, or any Indian restaurant, it's got its Christmas decorations up before anybody else. It's got its Christmas tree in the corner. And the people who are offended, they're a bunch of middle class, middle class white folk who seem to feel they should get offended for everybody else.
Usually from the council.
The council, the front bench of the government, they need to be put in their place. That guy in the car shouting. He needs to
should get him. We should get him on more, I think. Amanda,
he made Jeremy Carr look quite chilled.
He did actually. Amanda, you've got a royal for us.
Prince Andrew. Obviously, Prince Andrew has to be in the lineup for this week's Plank of the Week.
Just when you thought he couldn't be any more of a plank.
I know. He's so this is all to do with the alleged Chinese spy.
Yes.
And him getting really, really close to him.
Yeah.
And it screams Prince Andrew. It's like he's just got to be in it and just getting it. Like
what? Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Exactly, and he just has to be having them all round for dinner.
He's mates with
having
anyone who's
nice-
got a few quid, basically.
Well, exactly.
I'm surprised he
And-
didn't pop round to your place when you were living in Windsor.
Well, it does sort of beg the question. I think I might surprise you a little bit. I think it just begged the question who's paid his stream. But I don't. Maybe I'm going to shock you with this, right? He's an idiot. He couldn't pick his nose without getting it wrong. But I think this is deeper. And I think the establishment, I think if you see pictures of Theresa May and David Cameron with this Chinese spy, I think it's easy.
He says
to
he's
go,
not a spy,
Prince
by the way.
Andrew's an idiot, which we all know. I think there's more to it. But yeah, Prince Andrew's an idiot.
I think he's just been a victim of his own stupidity and cockiness.
No, but
and
he also
arrogance
set up this
because
foundation, didn't he? This charity, which was a sort of charity on the one hand, but it was also a trading organisation on the other hand, where he was getting 2% of any investment that was made. So he was actually making money out of it as well. As introducing this guy, H6, I think he was known as, before he was
H6.
unmasked.
That's not really like sexy a spy name,
not like
is it?
007,
no.
is it?
H6.
You know, H6.
Sounds like the
Does that mean
bus.
Yeah.
He did look like someone out of Johnny English, though, didn't he? You seen the pictures of it? It didn't really look like Spy, did
But
it?
that's those are the spies you have to worry about.
Yeah.
The ones that don't look like.
Well, the
What spies
Westminster,
don't you have to worry about?
Yeah.
The ones that look like.
our spies, you have to worry about them. But the Westminster bubble is clearly full of these people. You know, you go anywhere near the Palace of
You see,
Westminster,
I think that
any of the bars are
Westminster
full
is
of
something.
spies.
I think that the people who go in there and try and convince MPs to go, what do they call them? Lobbyists. Big companies of lobbyists, and I know a couple as well, nice people, but they spend their whole time trying to get a point of view from somebody's. I think lobbyists should be kept out of Parliament.
Yeah, I
don't
agree.
even see why lobbyists are allowed in there.
So the name of the guy who says he's not a spy is Yang Tengbo, but he was also known as Steve Yang. Because I guess if you're a spy, you've got to have more than one name, haven't you?
The name was Steve Wang.
Steve Yang.
Steve Wang. License to thrill.
Now, I've got
worries
a
me,
special,
though,
got a
is how-
special treat for you.
How stupid Prince Andrew is.
Yeah.
That worries me about
He is quite
intelligence.
stupid. This is the same guy, let's not forget. When he did the interview with
doesn't
Emily
sweat.
Maitlis, he thought it went really well. Right? He actually told everybody it went really well. Here he is talking about his good friend, Jeffrey Epstein.
But you were staying at the house of a convicted sex offender.
I admit fully that my judgment was probably coloured by my tendency to be too honourable.
Yeah. Yep. I've got a tendency to be too honourable. I've been accused of that many times.
You get caught in you're found in a known sex offender's house, probably doing whatever, and that's an honourable thing, you dirtbag. He's an idiot, isn't he?
But it is funny, though, when you play that clip now, because you think, well, he's not turning up to the royal Christmas dinner. Are you going there in Sandringham?
Well, he's been
Heading
told,
over?
has he not?
He's not going.
To not only
So
not go
he's-
to Christmas dinner, but basically never to be seen in public again.
I bet
Yeah.
he slips in.
No, I think Fergie...
They'll have
well, I know
drones
Fergie
up.
is central to this. They ain't going.
No.
They ain't going.
Just give him a 3-bed semi and a Ford Mondeo
No.
somewhere.
Send
and
him
just let him
to
get
the
on with it.
Scottish Highlands. I've said something for a long time.
They don't
look
deserve
at me.
that.
I think that the king is scared of Andrew because I think that he
knows
if
stuff.
Of course he knows stuff, man. There's got to be stuff.
What about the
He's
king?
a spy himself.
What about the
really.
king?
That's
He's
what's
gonna
odd, though.
disappear.
He was too honourable, so he went
Yeah.
to Epstein's, and then actually he's not going to go to his own family's Christmas
No.
dinner because he's just going to stay out the way and
Yeah.
not cause a distraction. There's obviously something else going on
Yeah,
there.
absolutely right. Well, we'll have more, I'm sure, on Prince Andrew in the coming year. Coming up next, though, we're going to talk about Donald Trump. We're going to go up to Newcastle to see what's going on at the university up there. And the Metropolitan Police are getting another mention, honourable one or not. This is Plank of the Week, Christmas special. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. It's the Christmas special. As you can see, I've removed the tinsel because it was starting to irritate me slightly. But now it's my turn to present the first plank on this show. And I'm going to present ABC, which is, of course, an American television network that you'll be familiar with. Yep. They employ a man by the name of George Stephanopoulos, who used to be, if you remember, one of the chief advisors to Bill Clinton. I think he was his speechwriter. Very smart guy, very clever man. But he somehow managed to find his way onto what can only be described as a bit of a lefty liberal station, a bit like NBC, CBS, CNN, and all the other American stations, apart from Fox, which is the only decent one, which does terribly well. Anyway, he went on one of his shows, the George Stephanopoulos show, and he said this.
Why are you supporting someone who's been found liable for rape?
I just answered your question.
What is the answer?
He was not found guilty in a criminal court of law. It was sexual abuse. It wasn't actually rape, by the way. And E. Jean Carroll joked about all the money she's going to get.
They are afraid to come forward, as you said, because they are defamed by those who commit the rape. That's what Donald Trump has been found guilty of doing.
He defended himself over that and denies that it ever happened. But he was not found guilty in a criminal court of law.
This is the case, of course, of E. Jean Carroll, a woman who said that she was molested, in other words, in a changing room. I think it was in Neiman Marcus, in the shop in New York, which I used to frequent when I was there. Very nice shop, it is indeed. But, of course, it was a civil case, and George Stephanopoulos ought to know better. And he said it 8 times, apparently, in this one particular show. In which he basically accused Donald Trump of being a rapist and saying he was liable for raping this woman, E. Jean Carroll. As a result, of course, Donald Trump sued them, and he's just won. 15 million big ones. 15
of ABC.
Of ABC and of George Stephanopoulos, who has personally got to pay, I think, some money to Trump as well. ABC will pay $1 million to Trump for his attorney fees, plus 15 million in damages. So, you know, the tide and the worm has indeed turned.
I find it astonishing. They just can't accept it, those bedwetters in America, can they? They put forward a woman who had nothing to say, who was part of a process that hadn't worked. And I said, I don't know about you guys, but listen, I don't agree with everything that Donald Trump says, and I certainly don't agree with some of the things that he's done. But if you look at the people that voted and you work out why, which is cost of gas and fuel and the problems with immigration, it's exactly what's happened here. And everybody went, is a man who'll do something. We need Donald Trump in the United Kingdom. That's what we need.
Well, we have
somebody
Donald
like
Trumps,
that.
and I think we will next time. But it is, you talk about the bedwetters. It is the
wokists.
I'm not using the other word I'm so tempted to use. It is the sort of middle class, quite often middle-aged or a bit younger. Younger people now, the younger generation are realising this. You know, the 18 to 24-year-olds are now much better, are much together than the sort of 25 to 40.
I don't know where it comes from, this desire to try and convince us all, whether it's America or the United Kingdom.
Because they think they look intelligent.
So many of that generation.
They've been taught. But again, we go back to Nigel Farage getting a milkshake thrown on him. Donald Trump getting shot at by people. You know, they've created this division. And they say that it's people like Donald Trump and Nigel Farage that create it, but it's not. No. You know, it's the people who are against them who make out that these people are villains. That
the left have always been more violent.
Demonising people for not agreeing with them on their political stuff. It's ridiculous. I mean, only this week, of course, they've had the mockers put right on them by Nigel Farage because he went over to Mar-a-Lago to meet Elon Musk, along with Nick Candy, one of the richest men in Britain, who's already bankrolling the Reform Party to the tune of several million quid. Elon Musk talking about giving him $100 million. And everyone back here is going, oh, we can't have any money coming into the country for foreign people. No, it's all right to get some money from China. It's all right to get some money from, you know, various offshore organisations who wanted to bankroll the Labour Party or the Tory Party. But now they're suddenly going, this guy's got more money than anybody else in the world. We don't want that.
Well, we do, but anyway.
Well, I think it's going to be a game changer, don't you? It's going to be brilliant.
Absolutely is.
Anyway, George Stephanopoulos had to issue this statement. ABC News and George Stephanopoulos regret statements regarding President Donald J. Trump made during an interview by George Stephanopoulos with Representative Nancy Mace on ABC's This Week on March the 10th, 2024. If they've got any brains at ABC, they'll ditch old Stephanopoulos and say, you've just cost us 15 million, mate. Well done.
It's extraordinary.
What a plank.
I mean,
absolute
plank.
Over to you, Jeremy.
Newcastle University are the latest in a long line of universities in this country who are seemingly out to prove to the younger generation that anybody who's over 40 is a racist, homophobic, misogynistic pain in the backside who should be pensioned off. University staff have been asked not to say Christmas break.
No, for God's sake.
Yeah, and allowed to say Christmas break because we're going back to the Winterville thing. It'll offend snowflake students. Not Christmas break, say winter break, because Christmas is sexist and it's wrong. In a 20-page guide, people, a 20-page guide, the changes will have a positive impact as non-religious terms make the calendar more inclusive and sensitive to a diverse range of beliefs. I haven't sworn all that.
No.
What a pile of crap.
Yeah,
honestly,
absolutely.
what about going and getting a degree, getting off your ass, getting a job and give something back? They sit in these universities spouting absolute rubbish like this.
Yeah.
And whoever makes these decisions, whether it's the chancellors, the teacher... I mean, my daughter told me the other day that some lecturer was saying, you know, the British Army is disgraceful. All they do is start world wars. I'm like, I would be...
Who's the name of that lecturer? My grandson's in the British Army.
There you
I
go.
want his name.
Good, I'll give it to you, fair.
Yeah.
No,
The erosion.
Don't give me that George Stephanopoulos approach. We'll get into trouble.
The erosion
I think
of
we
British
will.
culture, everything that we hold near and dear, everything that was cemented into my psyche as a child is being chipped away, eroded and trashed. And we have to resist it.
We do.
I will wish a Merry Christmas to everybody I see, irrespective of their faith, because I'm not intending to insult. It's actually a joyous greeting.
Yeah.
Completely
To
agree.
celebrate.
It's like saying happy birthday to
And I
someone,
hope
isn't
Father
it?
Christmas with his penis comes down your stocking and comes down your
Sorry?
chimney and fills your stocking. Honestly, I don't know. You
What's
just
that on your
nailed
stocking?
it. I say to my kids, I'm not going to apologise for what your granny and granddad taught me. I'm very proud, but all we have is negativity about what was wrong in the past. Well, I'll tell you what. What's wrong right now?
Yes.
Victims get nothing
Yeah, it's
and
all gone.
perpetrators
It's all
do.
gone. It's all gone.
Sorry,
big tongue.
I feel I'm defending a lot here, but I started my career, my adult life in Newcastle.
Yes.
And
In the 20s?
In the 70s. Okay. And it was really nice place.
Yeah.
Full of warm people. I think this
Great
is more
place.
to do with universities.
It is.
Yes.
Yes.
And
It is.
a lot of these universities
ordinary
are
people.
staffed
Yeah, ordinary
by
people.
idiots.
Yeah, of course. I don't know where they find them.
Well, I've got a university whose vice-chancellor is on 500 grand a year.
Yeah, of course.
£500,000 a year.
Ridiculous. Now, if you think that's bad, though, have a look at this. This is Google's Christmas advert.
So dry. This winter dryness is not it, especially when I have so many holiday looks to pull off. Thankfully, I know just the thing. And it's in stock nearby. Hydrated skin is a gift to everyone. No wrapping needed. Happy holidays to me.
It's a non-binary individual, apparently.
I'm quite relieved. I thought the non-binary individual was talking about dryness elsewhere.
Yes.
And that bit was all over the body.
You can
That's
get
what
help with that, though, apparently.
Well, I thought that's what we were going down the route of.
Yeah.
It's a very
I've never
camp
experienced
person
that, have you?
doing an ad.
No.
I don't have a problem, really, because, you know, there's been a lot of campness and camp entertainers.
Campness
and
is great.
I
There's
don't
nothing wrong
have a
with
problem
campness.
with that.
Wait, look at the pantomime season.
Yeah,
is upon us,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So why, you know, because I don't know whether it was a man or a woman, but, you know, drag artists... really funny in there.
Yeah, very funny.
I don't find the drag artists of today quite as funny.
No, because they're doing it for a political reason.
I went on Sunday and Biggins was dressed as a Baywatch babe.
Was he?
Extraordinary.
That must have been shocking.
Brilliant.
That must have been shocking.
Dame, you're right, but it's not that. Panto's a bit of fun, but if escapism, this is they're trying to get this into people's psyche.
They're trying to go, this is what ordinary people's lives are like, which they're not, are they?
No.
I mean, that's the bottom line. Peter Blexley, over to you for the Metropolitan Police.
Oh,
Is it
well
time to
I
put
reckon he
on
wants
your-
to dress up
He's got
for
some
this.
headgear for this.
The police do like to dress up.
They
at
do.
Christmas.
You
Christmas
old,
special
you old cock.
Yeah, there you are.
is Trev the turkey, actually.
The turkey. Think
Oh,
you'll find,
mate.
yeah. Gobble, gobble.
Yeah, my second nomination this week is the Public and Commercial Services Union.
Oh, yeah.
And their staff who work for the Metropolitan Police as civilian employees. Because it would appear that a lot of them have been enjoying the luxury of working from home of late. And when the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, said, actually, I'd like you lot to be in the office between 60% and 100% of your working time, guess what? They threw their toys out of the pram, had a vote, and now they've voted for strike action, which would be negligent, may put the public at danger, might make the police perform even less efficiently than they currently do. And I think it is outrageous. They are public servants. They are planks.
They really are, and they shouldn't. I mean, normal, ordinary police officers are not allowed to go on strike, as you say, right?
No.
But the backroom staff can. But apparently, they can also work from home because the strike is about wanting them to come back to the office, isn't it? But why can't? What on earth can you do as a police investigator working from home?
I don't understand how, if you employ someone and you decide you want them to work from a certain place, you say, I would like you to come in and work. You know, we worked at home for a bit during the COVID situation, and some people found it more productive to work at home, I don't doubt. But some people want their employees back. And if you employ someone, if I turn around to you and say, you know, sorry, Peter, but from next week, back in the office.
You don't have to apologise, Governor. What time do you want me in?
9 o'clock.
Yeah. Would you mind not bringing that hat with you, though?
Why have you dressed in a cockerel head, though?
Because these people are cops.
Turkey. It's festive. It's
Christmas.
It actually doesn't look turkey.
It's Christmas.
If you have a look
But
on
It looks like Emu's love child.
Trust me.
Yeah, it is
When
turkey.
Trev
You've got
gobbles,
the
you'll
head
realise
up. You've
it's
got
a
your head
turkey.
up Trevor's arse, to be honest, haven't you?
I've had it in worse places.
Yeah, well, I'll take your word for that. Yeah, it is ridiculous, though, isn't it? Because, I mean, on the subject of strikes, we should say a late entry, which can't be on as Plank of the Week at all, but the train drivers and the train companies have just announced, Avanti on the striking front, which is the West Coast main line up to Manchester, have just announced that they're going to be on strike not only on the 22nd and the 23rd of December, but on the 31st, so New Year's Eve, strike.
Great, that's my Christmas plan. My
and then
Christmas
and then January the 2nd, when everybody's coming back off the trip that they've just made to come back to work or whatever, strike. And then for every Sunday, believe it or not, from January, mid-January to May, they're going to be on strike every Sunday.
But I thought they got everything.
These are people
the right to strike. What is this stupid idea that if you employ somebody, you give them the chance to say no and not be sacked?
I thought these people had a massive pay rise and were at an £80,000.
They got everything they wanted.
Well, that was the brilliant Louise Haigh who settled the strike.
Who?
Louise Haigh, remember her?
Her with the pink hair?
She was her with the pink hair.
She was thrown under a train.
She was.
You mean the fraudster?
Thrown under. Yeah, she was a convicted fraudster, as it turned out, but was given the job as
Here's
Secretary of
her
State
phone.
for transfer. You found it. Yeah, there you go. So they got no concessions at all out of them. So they're all going on strike again for yet more money. So the problem's going to be that all through the winter, whoever goes on strike is going to get whatever they want because the government's going to say, well, we can't not give the public sector money. We'll just give them everything that they ask for. So there'll be one strike after another.
While standing up every week at PMQs going, we inherited a £22 billion black hole. And they keep adding
Which
to
we've
it.
given to Syria, we've given to...
Yeah, she's on it, she's right.
Absolutely, because it's gonna, this strike will destroy businesses who are depending on
We've already had Sacha Lord, the guy who runs the nighttime economy business up in Manchester, saying this is their biggest night. New Year's Eve, biggest night of the year. People will stop going to Manchester. They'll cancel hotel bookings. They'll cancel, dinner reservations. The money will just drain out of the economy, all because these lazy, pumped-up, stupid people who work for the train services don't want to go to work on a Sunday. I mean, that's basically it. They don't want to have to do any overtime. It's ridiculous.
Talking of laziness.
Yeah, go on.
I bumped into a member of police staff the other day who works for the Metropolitan Police. So one of these civilians that works from home, and he gleefully told me I'll get my work done in 3 hours, which then leaves me plenty of time to walk the dog and go to the gym.
Very nice too.
And
then these bozos still try to tell us all, I work just as well from home as when I'm in the office, you know. In fact, I'm even more productive than I am. Absolute rubbish.
And I find it really ironic that the one thing that everybody talked about in lockdown was the mental effect of being segregated.
Right.
And yet you've got these people who sit at home all day and don't have that social involvement. They go into the office.
I tell you what you could do.
Right?
What you could do is work out how much it would cost a person to go to work, because it costs you to go to work. You've got to, commute, everything else. And then knock that off, actually, well, they do get paid.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think that might work. It might actually get them all back into the office. Now, we're going to take a little break here. This is Plank of the Week, Christmas special. Coming up, James Wells going to tell us about a man with some chicken, funnily enough. Not a turkey, some chicken.
The hat on?
And also,
I'm not wearing that.
Amanda's going to talk about chocolate as well. So it's all very seasonal here. This is Plank of the Week.
Gobble, gobble.
Oh.
No, take 5. Welcome back to Plank of the Week, a Christmas special. As you can see, we've got all no expense has been spared.
No.
We've got all sorts of decorations. We've got snow. We've got tinsel. We've got turkey hats. All the things going on that we need. Over to James. Well, we're not going to talk. We're going to talk chicken, not turkey.
Oh.
Well,
he's gonna put a hat on as
I
well.
said I wouldn't wear this, but I just decided my head's sweating a bit. So,
Okay.
You know, it might be quite nice.
You can use it as a sweatband.
Lovely.
So
you sit there. Look, yeah.
So tell us about this man at Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I'm tempted to do this story in my Father Christmas voice.
Okay. No, don't be sexist.
How about Mother Christmas?
Non-binary.
Anyway, I feel sorry for this guy. This is a guy, Gordon Tech, 51. And he has been given a fine for eating too slowly. He's at KFC.
Right.
You've got 60-minute parking, and you are not allowed to go over that. He went over it by 17 minutes, and he came back to find he'd been fined and a fine on his screen.
Right.
Could I just ask the assembled crew?
I wouldn't pay
Can
it.
we get the picture of him back up? Would that be possible, Chuck? Because I've noticed something in that.
You've noticed something in the picture?
What?
Yeah. He's
What?
standing in front of a parking sign.
No. What have you missed, team?
Oh, is
That's the
friend
Chinese
Andrew?
spy
Yeah.
that knew Prince Andrew. That's Twen Twang, or his name is. I'm telling you, that's H6.
It could be.
H6 having a KFC busted because they fined him 100 squid.
Well, he's got another name in that case. He's known as Gordon in this particular show. Gordon. You know, Gordon's alive.
But to be fair to God, you know, I was talking to...
Can I just take a slightly different view on this?
No,
because,
you can.
How can you spend over an hour in a Kentucky Fried Chicken shop? I mean, what's he doing in there?
Well, talking, eating, having another, you know, you have
another bucket,
bargain bucket,
a dessert, maybe.
Yeah, I wonder what his
or
order
a couple
was.
of coffees.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not designed.
Take more than an hour to have a meal.
They're not designed to have. You're not having a meal, are you?
It's meant to be fast food.
It's fast food. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's nothing to say. You know, where are the signs to say you can't spend? And it's not. You could go in as a foot person,
right?
But you can't go and park your car in any KFC car park for more than an hour.
Supermarkets have this as well, don't they? Supermarkets have the same thing because it's basically designed to stop people in a lot of places from parking and then getting on a train and going into town and coming back.
I got attacked by a Karen the other day.
Pardon?
In the supermarket car park.
Did you?
Got attacked by a Karen.
Karen
got blacked out
Karen.
windows at the back. Got the baby. I've got Oliver. Pull into Sainsbury's, put it in that.
Yeah.
Straight to my window. You shouldn't be parking here. Just let the windows down. I mean, I didn't.
Why weren't you supposed to park there?
What?
Why weren't you supposed to park
Because
there?
you can only park there if you've got children. They're in the back, love.
Right.
I couldn't
You know,
see
funnily
them.
enough, do you
What's
know what
wrong with
really,
people?
Honestly.
What really riles me now is when you're driving along and the car in front has baby on board stickers.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to drive differently because we're driving properly anyway? Why would you want to put baby on board and give that person behind you something to read when their eyes should have been on the traffic?
You know what's worse than that is when you get on the tube and there's a woman with a badge that says baby on board.
I've not seen that.
Have you not seen that?
No.
There's a lot of that.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely
that's for
right.
people to, sit down, make them sit
so
down, right?
Oh, you're going to think I've got...
but then people are not sure what to do, though.
So,
because they kind of
this
go...
is very quickly, 30 seconds. It's the only time I've ever seen my old man, God rest his soul, cry. He was getting near retirement. He was 60, gets on the tube at Paddington, and he sees a woman. This is 10, 15 years ago. She's pregnant. She's got a baby and something else. So he jumps up and says, would you like to see? And she turned to him in front of the whole carriage. You sexist old git, don't you think that I'm able to stand up? Take your chair. And he was, honestly, we go back to what we were saying at the beginning. Mikey, he was mortified like he'd done the wrong thing. World's gone mad.
Shocking, absolutely shocking. Over to you, Amanda, for your second nomination. It says here, Tony's Choco Lonely.
Yeah, strange
right?
name, but it's a delicious chocolate.
Is it?
But I am nominating this company because they've given out these advent calendars. You can buy one so you can, start of December.
Chocolate behind every
tuck
door.
in.
Yeah.
These poor posh kids who've got their posh chocolate.
Yeah.
They get to day 10. No chocolate.
Why?
Behind
Nothing behind the door.
Nothing behind the door, empty. They've got to wait a whole day until they get their bit of chocolate, and it's just to show about unequal opportunity in the chocolate industry.
So what's it supposed to represent? The missing chocolate?
Because there's missing opportunities.
Oh.
What does that mean? I'm not being difficult because you know I love you. What does that mean?
I honestly don't know.
Just trying to
I
it's
honestly don't
virtue
know.
signaling that you can't have everything that you want.
Because the
Is it
chocolate
something like
industry
that?
is unequally divided.
Oh,
For
Says
whatever
here
that
that
means, so people are
it-
getting
it-
paid more.
It's
who are
£15 for this advent calendar.
selling the advent calendar rather than making it.
15 quid. They say here as well it's meant to symbolise poor cocoa farmers. Well, maybe pay them a bit more then if you're the
That's
cocoa.
what it is about the.
Well, yeah, but they're paying the cocoa
Okay.
farmers, aren't
Didn't
they?
we just
for
have
the
a
cocoa?
selection box with the it looked like a stocking, didn't it? Did you have the white string and you had about 4 chocolate bars?
Yeah.
That was 99p.
Yeah.
Like, that was a
I
proper
could just
treat, right?
eat a bar of Cadbury's.
All right, I'll get you
fruit
one of the
and
break.
nut.
Yeah.
I would take that advent calendar back for £15
Yeah.
and say, I want some money back on this because I'm missing a chocolate.
Any kid who
I'd
was
be
booing
fuming.
over it, I'd play to them. You can't always get what you want by the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Brilliant track and a life lesson. There you go.
Yeah, I agree with you actually, Peter.
It's worked for them, though, isn't it? Because we're talking about
We're
it.
talking about it.
But-
If they want to make it up to us and send us some freebies, I'm all for that.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't think we're allowed to get any
Personally,
freebies.
I'd rather have Cadbury's, but that's just a personal thing.
Ah.
But
It's owned by the Americans now, though.
I know, and they've actually gone
It's not
back.
as
on
good.
that. They messed it up for
Not
a
as
bit,
good.
but the taste has come back to what it
Curly
was.
whirly?
I think my point
The
is
Hershey Highway.
Curly
my
whirly.
point is for
Yeah.
Plank of the Week is the fact that why does everything have to become political?
I know.
Can we just have an
It's a
advent calendar?
bloody
Can we
advent
just
calendar.
eat some chocolate
Yeah.
and just enjoy the festivities?
Yeah, absolutely. No, we
And no
can't because
religious-
Father
I mean,
Christmas
isn't
can't
that
have a
religious
penis.
thing?
What?
Isn't that
Advent.
religious?
Well, Advent is a religious. It's meant to be a
I don't
religious
care
thing.
about religion.
So we can't call him Father Christmas. It could be a woman
Yeah.
with a penis.
Yeah.
We can't
Yeah.
say we're going on our Christmas holidays because
No.
it's a winter break.
No.
We get an advent calendar for 15 quid. There'll be some bloody chocolate missing.
Yeah.
What a miserable,
Honestly,
miserable
it's
time.
so
You can rely
miserable.
on
But Peter
French
Blex is-
turkey
yeah.
for a gobble.
Yeah. There's
Brilliant.
always something
Thanks.
that you could look forward to.
You know
looking
that's
forward.
going to trigger vegetarians, don't you?
Oh,
You
God.
do realise you upset.
Well, there are some vegetarians that watch this show, so they'll be fine. Coming up, though, we're going to talk about the Environment Agency. That's my final nomination for this Christmas special plank of the week. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. I'm Mike Graham, and this, of course, is a Christmas special. As you can see, we've got some tinsel here. We might drape it around the plank when we finally find a winner, because I've got to judge the winner now after I've given my final nomination. And my final nomination, in keeping with the world going completely mad, is the Environment Agency. You know, you might not know who the Secretary of State for the Environment Agency is. Can anybody name
Reid.
Steve Reid, very good. We have a very educated panel here. Do you know what Steve Reid's last job was?
Yes, I do.
Leader of Lambeth Council.
Leader of Lambeth. He's only been to the countryside once.
Yeah.
One
He doesn't know anything about it.
Really?
Anyway,
Do you know how he used to get to work?
On a bike?
No, he did the Lambeth Walk.
Yeah, very good.
So rubbish, isn't it? What was that all about? James just got here he goes again.
Now, the Environment Agency is offering 40 summer internships, OK? So if you've got anybody of a young age who wants to try and get into the civil service, this is a good entry-level scheme. It says here, the Environment Agency is offering 40 internships, but there's a bit of a catch, because the candidates can only be from black, Asian or minority ethnic backgrounds. In other words, if you're white, you don't need to bother applying.
There are many organisations that say exactly the same thing. They have ridiculously stupid people in what is called diversity suites.
Yes.
Or don't confuse that with HR. Apparently, they're completely different. And we are losing it completely over here. I mean,
there's no balance.
Well, why should we apologise for the... Why should anybody? I don't give a monkey...
What difference does it make what colour your skin is if you want to work for the Environment Agency?
Surely it's about who's best at the job. And and in this quest to, as you quite always say, I hear you say this, in this quest to tick boxes and meet targets, it's gone the other way.
Yeah.
Supposing you said that about people from African countries or Asian countries, supposing you were to say, nobody with an African or an Asian background need apply for this.
No, I know.
You'd be in prison.
But also, those people as a group, right? That group of people that they are saying you must apply. Doesn't that say to those people you're only getting the job because of the colour?
And what does it mean, by the way, if you have one parent who happens to be black and one parent who happens to be white? What does that mean? Does
I've no idea.
You can't get
stupid. This man needs to be brought out, ridiculed. I'm going to get him on the show
Well,
next
these are the actual criteria here, and this is exactly what it says. You must meet the following three to meet the criteria to be interviewed for the job. You are from a black, Asian or minority ethnic background. You are a UK, Commonwealth or EEA, that's European Economic Area, national, and you have the right to work in the UK. I mean, Peter, the police have done this as well, haven't they, in the past? And they've tried to recruit people who are not necessarily white.
And they should be ashamed of themselves, and I think you'll find the NHS do it too.
Yeah.
In my experience, positive discrimination only ever turns out to be a negative, because you'll end up working side by side with colleagues, and as you alluded to, some might think you only got the job because of any given criteria, as opposed to you got the job because you were a worthy candidate.
Well, it says
if
here...
you want a harmonious workforce, that's what you need.
Apparently, it says here the 12-week scheme at the government body is designed to provide interns with, and I quote, valuable experience complementing your studies and supporting your personal and professional growth.
Let's get this right. The government don't like old people. No. They don't like people who...
they don't like old white people, that's for
They don't like old white people. I was going to say they don't like white people. They don't like people who actually bother to argue or discuss.
They don't like anything.
And they don't seem to like anybody who is British.
Yeah. Nope.
So our government is against people who are British.
And it's not just that, apparently, because according to a piece I've got here, it says the white category is excluded completely, which means it's not just white British, it's people from any other white background. So
terrible, man.
You can't even come in if you're French.
So remember the name
and
of
white.
lunatic.
Good. Right? Well, I mean, you might say that, but you know what I mean?
French.
It is absolutely extraordinary.
I feel a bit of a hypocrite talking about this, though, because before coming on this show, I did demand that I was just surrounded by men.
Yeah, that's what you normally do, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Funnily enough.
And I see no reason why she shouldn't be able to do that.
Stop touching me, you're objectifying me, I'm going to complain.
All the years that Jeremy Kyle said the same thing about I only want women guests on.
Yeah, it's true. Absolutely right.
Taught, can I categorically make the point of James Whale, whose dictionary I followed for many, many years.
Yes. Now, it's time to choose who's going to be the plank. And it's the last plank. There's going to be a plank of the year coming out next week. But this is the last actual plank of the week. that we're doing.
I think you need to get people to vote. I think this.
Well, we could do, but in order for there to be a vote, I would say you need to narrow down the number of possibilities.
You narrow,
right?
we vote.
Okay, so I think, and I'll say this, Prince Andrew, I think, has got to be pretty high up the list.
Yeah.
Yes.
To be honest, because I mean, he has been an absolute and utter plank. So there's him. There's the Victoria Thomas Bowen creature. Who threw the milkshake.
Yeah.
I don't want to really give her the publicity of making a plank of the week.
I agree.
Khalid Bakar, the Saracen, he's quite funny, isn't he? Beardy.
Yeah.
The National Trust is good. I would say this. I don't think there is an actual winner better than Prince Andrew, to be honest.
It matters little.
Because he doesn't. He just doesn't get it.
It matters to Amanda. She's never won anything. She's
Okay. James asked me what I think, and I said it matters little. Because this is not a democracy, the government will decide.
It's very true. He's right about that. Yeah. Because
Who would you like, Amanda?
I've previously had
Andrew.
votes on this show and then completely disregarded.
Because it's mine.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. We are at your temple.
Exactly.
We are bowing down at your altar.
I've been told that we have to judge. I'm going to say I think the plank of the week is indeed the one and only Duke of York. He went halfway up the hill and then didn't go down the other side. Plank of the week, Prince Andrew. Thank you very much indeed.
Wasn't that the
Merry
problem he always
Christmas.
went?
Yeah. Thank you to Jeremy Carr. Thank you to Amanda Devlin. Thank you to Sir James Whale and Peter Blexley as well. Very, very Merry Christmas to you all. And we'll see you next year.
So it is Talk, it is Drive Time, Monday through the week from 4 p.m. The show that's going to be about you. It's not about us. This is the home of common sense. The things that matter in your everyday life. The issues that resonate with you. Spent 2 years talking at you. I want you to talk at me. I'm tired. I'm getting old. Make it talk. The home of common sense. We're going digital. Make sure you're ready. Drive Time with JK is on Monday through the week from 4 p.m. Do join us.
Hello and welcome to our festive Clash of the Titans with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer, Grinch Kevin O'Sullivan and two crackers, Russell Quirk and Peter Caldwell, standing in for JK and MG. Well, while Starmer's fizz has well and truly lost its sparkle, Trump has bounced back like a Christmas cracker. The BBC's baubles have smashed to bits, and despite Andrew and Meghan's best efforts, the royals have proved they're still the crown jewels of resilience. What a show we have for you. Roll the titles. What a year it has been, and so much to celebrate this Christmas, as long as you're not British. The return of Trump in America after surviving that assassination attempt and election victories for centre-right parties across Europe, a new world order is being established. Except here in Britain, of course, where we're stuck with Grinch Keir Starmer and his miserable comrades in incompetence and hypocrisy. The ghost of the 1970s Christmas is past, well and truly here to haunt us. Inflation is up, unemployment is up, immigration up over 1 million a year. And he's only been Prime Minister for 5.5 months. The honeymoon lasted less time than Augustus Gloop's advent calendar. In fact, Starmer is so unpopular, his only friends left are train drivers and Sadiq Khan. Sorry, Sir Sadiq Khan. Well, the Prime Minister has been off globe-trotting as our problems mount up at home, and Rachel Reeves has clobbered the farmers, working all hours to provide our turkey and sprouts on Christmas Day. He's just been in Norway, but told his kids he didn't have time to visit Santa Claus because he's been too busy turning Britain into crapland. The Tories are still hopelessly short of any wise men or indeed wise women. So it's Nigel Farage and Reform snaffling all the gold, and the frankincense and myrrh too, probably. It's been another annus horribilis for the royal family too. Prince Andrew and Harry and Meghan are the unwanted gifts that just keep on giving, aren't they? No doubt the King will reference his and Kate's cancer battles in his TV Christmas message. Maybe you'll be seeing it on the BBC, but, well, most of the BBC has been in the news for the wrong reasons. So many scandals this year. Hugh Edwards, Greg Wallace, the Strictly Bullying row, that Charles might want to think about broadcasting it just on TalkTV next year. We are, of course, ready to serve Your Majesty. Anyway, so that's a nice little roundup of what's been going on in 2024. Good knows what's going to happen in 2025. I'm joined by the boys. We've got our Christmas hats on. I have to say, I mean, I don't want to be a Grinch at Christmas, but goodness me, things have been pretty darn bad, have they not? And I have to say, most of it seems to me to come down to our new Prime Minister. It feels like he's been Prime Minister for about 5.5 years, but it's actually about 5.5 months. And it's going, I think we can safely say, pretty darn badly. Would that be the
I think that's the consensus.
That seems to be the consensus,
Yeah.
even from Labour voters.
And if you count the days that he's actually been in Great Britain, he's been Prime Minister for about 5 days.
Six. Never hear Keir.
Never hear Keir, yeah. So it was three gear Keir, two-tier Keir, and never. I mean, it's
never
extraordinary.
hear Keir.
The latest polls.
Oh dear, Keir.
The latest polls of the last week show that 61% of Britons are dissatisfied with him. His net approval rating is below any other Prime Minister in
He's
like,
officially
in my
the worst
lifetime.
Prime Minister of Britain ever.
Yeah,
Officially
I mean, I think if Liz Truss had got to 5.5 months in her dreams, she might have been just as unpopular. But given there was this supposed wave of excitement, it's quite astonishing, isn't it? And let's think, we've had winter fuel payments taken away. We had train drivers getting a big pay rise because, of course, decisions and choices being made. We had two-tier justice, of course, for the handling of the riots and attacks on our freedom of speech. We've had all the freebies, the free gear Keir, the budget, national insurance rises for employers, inheritance tax for farmers. As you say, he's always abroad. I mean, it's just non-stop, Peter.
It's the choices as well that you make. They say to govern is to choose. And the choice he has made, and Rachel Reeves, as Chancellor, has made, has really been about those who have done well out of this administration. And they've been the usual suspects. The ASLEF train drivers, the junior doctors. OK, they needed to sort that out. There's no doubt about that. But there are loads of people who will freeze this winter, who won't get their payments for whatever reason. There are lots of small businesses as well that are really thinking about national insurance rises as well.
Were they going to have to make job cuts or not hire someone?
But the crux of this is Starmer self-harmer, isn't it? That yes, he's had to make choices, but the two major problems that he's encountered were self-caused, because it was, of course, the winter fuel allowance, axing that. They didn't need to do it.
No, they didn't.
That came out of the blue,
much
didn't
money.
it?
And then, of course, the farmers' inheritance tax, again, won't save much money, didn't need to do it. And the reason that Labour did both of these things was class warfare. They don't like old people because they voted Brexit and they don't tend to vote Labour, and they don't like people in rural communities because they're traditional Tory supporters. It's as simple as that. So for ideological reasons, unnecessary reasons, this government has ruined itself.
But it's also, Kevin, you're right. I don't disagree with anything you've said. It's also things they've got themselves into, as well as things they've voluntarily done. The winter fuel allowance could have been part of the budget, for example. They could have taken some of the heat around that. But they did about a month beforehand.
I mean, I can understand. You're ahead of a budget. We used to, when I was a political journalist way back in the day, anything that was leaked from the budget, that would be a sacking offence, a resigning offence.
There's a month before.
Now you know about things months and months before, and they leak it themselves. But you're only supposed to put out the stuff that's good news, aren't you? So that you get a load of separate headlines for that. But
there's that. So you've got on the one side the Marxism, which I guess we shouldn't be surprised
Do you
about,
think they are? Do you
yes,
think they really
100%.
are?
This follows a particular MO, which is identify who we think is the pantomime villain rich, which is older people, business owners, wealth creators, entrepreneurs, and of course, who would have thought pensioners, farmers as well, and literally take that money and give it to your mates.
Because train drivers are famously hard up on the basic 65k for a 4-day week.
Of course, it was all fun. How they survived it. But and so Keir Starmer talks about ordinary working people. Let's translate that as what it really means, which is the public sector. That's what it is.
Their Marxist project is this. They are taxing the hell out of the private sector in order to take that money and give it to the public sector.
Because
the public sector works so well.
That's Marxism. They don't understand how it feeds in. But then you've got the Marxism on one side. But then, of course, let's not forget the utter deception. The way that this government took power under false pretences, an electoral fraud, I think it is, in terms of the way that they deceived the electorate. They didn't tell us anything that they've actually done, and they haven't done anything that they said they were going to do.
But the thing that I find absolutely extraordinary about the whole thing is that they knew they were going to be in power. They knew for at least a year, probably 2 years, and they still just kept making promise of promise. And then they started backtracking. Oh, no, we're not offering much. But even Labour voters, I know, people who've genuinely gone, Keir Starmer is the saviour of the world. The world's going to be so... The choice was so awful.
The adults are in charge. The Titanic didn't have a comms problem. The Titanic had an iceberg problem.
Well, it did, actually.
I think more like Tony Blair
wasn't working very well.
Tony Blair could have sold it better. Well, I wonder who has been selling things better, and that is comeback of the year, undoubtedly, which is Donald Trump. I mean, who would have predicted that to have happened? Russell, you want to talk about this because while it's been miserable for us here in the UK, there's been a lot of cheer stateside.
Well, I think there'll be a lot of excitement and optimism across the United States. He is the 45th and now the 47th president of the United States. Some people seem to be rather uncomfortable with that. And actually, in all of this kind of Trumpism, and he's, really runaway victory, his landslide victory, which of course none of the pollsters really predicted. I mean, some of them were totally and utterly embarrassed by them saying, oh, actually, I think Harris is going to win or it's going to be close. But the wonderful thing in all of this is the fact that the left are apoplectic about the fact that Trump has won. To the point that you can't go onto an American airline with a Trump cap on without a stewardess apparently coming over and saying, that's a bit offensive, could you take it off, please? It's hilarious. It's wonderful.
I feel that way about baseball caps generally.
Except Trump's triumph has sort of lifted the veil. And even in New York, which is supposed to be a Trump-hating city, people are walking around with MAGA hats now. So all of those people in America who didn't used to admit they were Trump supporters now do admit it. And I think what's happened here is a sea change in world politics. If I hear those Reform UK guys go one more time, oh, Sunday Times just made up that story about Elon Musk giving us money. Really? Of course he's going to give them money. Now, Reform UK, spurred on by Elon Musk, will carry Trump's mantle to Britain and maybe, just maybe, assume power, and then we can drop all this net zero crap and all the nonsense.
That would be a good thing. Look, I've not been a fan of Donald Trump. I think there's lots of reasons why he's unfit for public office, but my God, Kamala Harris was worse. And I think there's a lot of stuff he wants to do on net zero, on immigration, on the economy that I really, really support. You don't have to necessarily think someone is a morally good soul to say he's better than the alternative. And the so-called moderate alternative is not. Kamala Harris is an extremist extremist, radical, and utterly incompetent, idiot. Well, those are the choices.
And Donald Trump is a sort of cartoonish figure, or almost a sort of Victorian grotesque or something. But scrape away the orange face and the weird hair and the Americana aspect of his personality, and what he talks is common sense. I'm not going to charge you great big high energy bills because I'm going to get rid of net zero. I'm going to keep your fuel prices low. I'm going to keep your food prices low, and I'm going to seal our borders and get rid of all the illegals. People like that.
Contrast our economy in 2 or 3 years' time versus the American economy. A bit like we've seen in Argentina under Milei, who's already seeing 8% per annum GDP growth against our reduction.
Although it's easy when you're coming from a very low
But that's a big GDP number. And I suspect we'll see exactly the same in the US over the next 2 or 3 years because he's assembled a cabinet of individuals that understand the economy. And
Elon Musk is my big hope.
But what have we done? We've assembled a cabinet of people that have never even had a job, let alone know anything about business.
They're so out of their depth, this bunch. So even the ones who've experienced.
And Trump now gets it. He didn't perhaps get it in 2016. He gets it now. Look at how much has happened during the transition already. It's about a month to go. So many things are in place. There's radical change coming down the track. America is going to change, and he gets it. He understands you've got to, as soon as your feet touch the ground, you've got to start running.
Now, also bring it home now in terms of the whole Trumpism thing to here. Just this week, we've seen Nick Candy, who's the new Treasurer of Reform, and Nigel Farage go to Mar-a-Lago to meet, guess who? Elon Musk. To be a fly on the wall in that room this week, what do we think that translates to over the next 2 or 3 years?
Tim Montgomery, he's now defected to Reform. He thinks 20 million is coming Reform.
These are huge sums of money. Will that be a game changer? We know that Nigel Farage made it really clear. He didn't want it to be all about Reform just affecting the Tory policy on promising a Brexit referendum or getting Boris Johnson elected, get Brexit done, and not Jeremy Corbyn in 2019. He said, I've been done with that. The Tories are they're Labour light. You need us. He doesn't want to be a protest vote. He wants to be the government. But do you think that Elon Musk's money will make that difference?
Well, I think it'll make a difference. It'll make a difference if Kemi Badenoch doesn't raise her game and fast. I mean, the Tories have disappeared as a voice of opposition.
Well, she still needs to. Look at the MPs
five Reform MPs are making the racket of their lives, really disrupting. They're the opposition. What is Badenoch doing?
Reform are going to perform a political revolution.
I think so.
Well, it's going to be very interesting. Well, we'll talk about this no doubt many more times over next year. Coming up next on Clash of the Titans, the BBC's baubles smashed to bits while the Royals proved their resilience. Well, some of them did. Stay right here. Welcome back to Clash of the Titans with me, Julia Holly-Brewer, and the boys. Well, one of the boys here, Peter Coble. You want to talk about events this year involving the BBC.
Our national broadcaster, the licence fee has gone up, yet scandal after scandal after scandal. Hugh Edwards, a lot of people focus, of course, on the court case and the fact that he got a suspended sentence because of his looking at paedophilic images. But what they neglect in all of that is how he treated younger staff. There will be there is an inquiry into all of that, but we still don't know about it. Still waiting for Russell Brand.
A lot of his behaviour was well known at the BBC.
Well, of course. We're still waiting for the Russell Brand report a year on. Greg Wallace, the most recent one. Horrendous and very, very serious allegations there in regard to what he allegedly was up to on MasterChef. He's been sort of basically cancelled around this. Strictly Come Dancing not getting off either. Why can't the BBC get their house... Tim Westwood. Why can't the BBC get their house in order? Why can't they manage these situations? Why can't they manage these big presenters?
Is it a problem specifically at the BBC, or is it a problem with people working in telly?
I can
That's part of it.
Yeah, well, the first rule of showbiz journalism is the BBC is useless. It is. It's a massive, great behemoth, massively overstaffed, run by old men in grey suits who have no idea what they're doing. Every Director General is a disaster. Tim Davie, I think, deserves special mention because he's a particular disaster. They just stumble from one scandal to the next and nearly
why?
Well, because first of all, I'll tell you why. Because when it's a big organisation, you're bound to get the odd Greg Wallace and the odd Tim Westwood and all that, and you have to deal with that. Or Jimmy Savile. But they don't. What do they do? What do they do? Their first impulse.
Can I say, by the way, some of those illegal allegations that no actual,
their first instinct at the BBC to this day is cover up, keep it secret, don't tell the people who pay for us, as in the public. So it's this urge to secrecy.
It's not just a telly thing. There's a special ingredient within the BBC, which is that they take money as a tax, which we all have to pay, regardless actually of whether you actually watch the BBC or not. And therefore, because it's mandatory, there is no scrutiny and there is no accountability. You cannot have an organisation that is not accountable to anybody. No. Because guess what happens when there's no accountability, no scrutiny? Bad behaviour, shock.
But I think so much of this is about that celebrity culture. There's talk about there's people who work on shows, and then there's the talent, and some people, because they're considered to be so bigger than their shows, that they're able to get away with, sexual harassment or much more serious allegations. And there's a range of allegations. They are massively wide-ranging, from inappropriate comments to allegations of rape. And again, people who have been denying these claims. We must make that clear. And I don't want people sort of cancelled because someone said they didn't like the way someone spoke to someone 10 or 20 years ago. But some of these allegations are so strict. You'd think they'd have learned the lessons from the very serious allegations made about Jimmy Savile, very serious allegations made about a number of Radio 1 DJs. But they didn't learn the lessons.
They don't need to, because no one does anything about it.
And no one gets sacked, and there's no accountability. And it is down to management, because look, if you say something or do something as a presenter in an office, and the manager comes up to you and says, that's not okay, don't do that, well, then your card is marked. The problem is that these people are allowed to get away with it. You have very senior people in the BBC saying, I must have Greg Wallace for that programme. I must have...
Is he the great crowd puller?
No, he's not. And there's no... He was their pet working class person. They always have one. But listen, I'll tell you a story about the BBC, because I knew, I still do know, one of Hugh Edwards' victims, if you like, a very attractive young gay guy who started receiving intimate pictures of Hugh Edwards' private parts and invitations to hotels, and it became so oppressive that my friend went to HR at the BBC.
He worked at the BBC?
Yeah, he was a producer, and he went to the BBC and said, look, this has got to stop, I can't carry on like this. But do you know what HR said to him? Well, it's Hugh Edwards. Are you sure you want to carry on with this?
Isn't that...
That's it. They venerate anyone behind the microphone.
But this is the extraordinary thing. You'd think it'd be the opposite way around, because he's so high profile. This is the man, who was talking, joining us as a nation as we watched the Queen's funeral. He was there for the King's, coronation. He's there for the general elections. This man is so high profile. You'd think you want to be extra careful that the person who is fronting these shows of international importance...
No, but if you're at the BBC and you're bulletproof...
would be required to...
But if you're bulletproof, it encourages you to behave.
The key point in all of this is that the only thing that any broadcasting organisation has, beyond the vast resources the BBC has, is trust.
Yeah.
And if there are loads of people you can set up in your kitchen, you can have a channel on YouTube, it can be far more successful than maybe many BBC programmes, for example, if you've got decent lighting and decent audio and whatever. But what the BBC has, or at least had, was trust. And if you don't trust them, and if you're paying them a huge amount of money, people are going to go elsewhere, and they're voting with their feet.
Anyway, let's move on. We touched on this. We talk about bad behaviour and people getting away with things because they're venerated. This also links in, of course, with the royal family, well, certain members of it anyway. Kevin, you want to talk about the royals, or at least some of them.
Some of them. Well, we could talk about most of them, actually. I mean, it's been an annus horribilis for so many members of the royal family, two of whom deserve our utmost sympathy. And we have to pay tribute. The reason the royals carry on being popular is because despite oafs like Harry and Andrew, you have the King and Kate, the Princess of Wales, both suffering cancer and both handling themselves with great dignity and grace. And the nation has rallied behind those two great members of the royal family. Here's to William as well for doing his bit. Here's to the entire royal family, frankly, who we ought to be proud of. They do a good job, apart from the two absolute loser oafs, Harry and Andrew. Harry must wake up every day saying, thank God I've got Uncle Andy, because then he takes the flack away from me.
I mean, Prince Harry's never done anything as wrong as Prince Andrew, ever. And he fought for us in a war, for God's sake. Give him some credit.
Harry and Meghan have really had an annus horribilis. Basically, their Netflix contract is on the point of being cancelled. His series about polo was an absolute disaster. It looks like they're not even going to show her already filmed cooking series. They're so
What about her jam? When's her jam coming out? That's what
American
pots of it, something like that.
American Riviera Orchard was launched in March, is not yet open for business, and is unlikely ever to do so.
I was going to start my own Hartley's jam, and it was going to be British seaside. British seaside plot. Yes, I mean exactly.
By the way, we've just got the traditional Christmas card from Harry and Meghan, which starts off with This is their Christmas card. This is what it says at the top. From the office of
and it also doesn't, of course, because it's truly and properly woke, doesn't mention the word Christmas.
No, it's Happy Holidays, which should be a shooting offence.
But I tell you, in fairness, in America, everyone says Happy Holidays. They really do. But we've got the traditional pictures of the back of the kids' heads. Those kids are going to get recognised by the back of their heads. We've seen them so often. We never see their faces. Now, everything has gone wrong for them. Those two weird pretend royal tours to Nigeria and Colombia. What was that about?
I'm assuming because it's Harry and Meghan that it's money.
Well, the thing with Harry and Meghan is that what they are now realising really, really rapidly and really brutally is that with every day that passes, they get a little bit further and further and further away from the royal family, and their relevance decreases and decreases
and their revenue decreases.
Their revenue decreases, and they're trying to stay relevant. But the only way they can stay relevant is talking about the thing they used to be a part of in relation to that.
And
nobody cares about them themselves.
No, at some point, we're going to have genuinely the most. There was so much excruciating stuff in that Netflix documentary. It was a great watch, to be fair, but they kind of sold their souls. In his book, he kind of sold his soul. At some point, again, it's like that celebrity thing. Well, eventually, you're Kim Kardashian. You have to show your bum.
I've got one question. We all know what's going on now. Let's call this guy, what's his name?
H6.
H6. He is a spy. Our courts have decided twice this guy is a spy, so I'm not interested in his denials. He is a Chinese spy. He was a close associate of Prince Andrew for 10 years, both personally and professionally. He was his business contact in Beijing. We got a problem here. Now, recently, Andrew was on the point of being kicked out of the Royal Lodge, his grandiose home in Windsor Great Park that he's lived in for 30 years, because he couldn't afford the maintenance. He needed £3 million. Everybody knows. Everybody knows he's skint. Suddenly, 3 weeks ago, I've got the money. Where did he get it? Did he get it from H6? We need to know. This is serious.
This is the problem, though.
This is serious.
When you become a semi-detached royal, any accountability, any, the palace looking at your accounts, all of that goes. And the fact is, there's no way to get that back with Andrew or indeed with Harry as well.
And yet I say the lack of accountability. This is a man we know has got poor judgment. We've had some royal commentators talking about he's been naive. Well, I mean, I think the MI5 and MI6 were a bit sodding naive to allow this Chinese spy to get so close to Prince Andrew. But look, this is a man, Prince Andrew, who was so naive, he thought that he would go visit a convicted child sex trafficker, a paedophile, in Jeffrey Epstein, and go and stay at his house for 4 days. Security services allowed that to happen, to apparently break up his friendship from him.
It's not naivety.
Because he's a gentleman.
It's not naivety.
It's
When
on the
ground.
He has terrible judgment. But look, Prince Andrew has never met a dodgy millionaire or billionaire that he didn't like.
Yeah, he's on the scrounge. He scrounges money.
But the security services warned him directly about this character, about H6, and he ignored the warning.
But he shouldn't be allowed to ignore the warning.
Look on the bright side.
He's not allowed to have the trappings of the royal family and still live in their grace and favour house.
But look on the bright side.
This
is the first time we've ever had a sentence with the words Prince Andrew and intelligence.
He's actually
slightly different context.
He's actually thrilled because he has been described as China's useful idiot, and as he's telling friends, it's the first time anyone said I'm being useful. So there you go. So it's all working out for him.
Prince Andrew being useful. On that note, I mean, it's an unlikely note, and Prince Andrew and intelligence being in the same sentence, I think we'll need to end it. Thank you very much, chaps. Great to have you join us. I can't believe we wore the hats the whole way through.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Indeed, Merry Christmas to everyone.
Christmas.
That is all from us of the Clash of the Titans this year. A huge big thank you to Kevin O'Sullivan, to Russell Quirk and to Peter Caldwell. We will be back, of course, in 2025. Remember, you can catch more from us on Talk all week. Tune in on your radio, online, on your smart speaker. Don't forget to subscribe to Talk on YouTube.